Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Rundown, A2DRadio.com. Zach Burr, Sean Watson, Ralph Delavecchio, Nick D'Amelio in with us from Philly Fan Radio. He's on the ones and twos today and got his headset on, so he's going to get involved with all of our conversations, doing a little bit of everything over there, giving Matt Cinsuti, Metal Matt, a break. He's coming with us later tonight to the football game at Conwell Egan. I know the man sitting to my right, Sean Watson, a Bonner Prendergast.
Well, when I went, it was Bonner.
It was just Bonner.
It was Bonner.
Now
Bonner.
they're Bonner Prendy.
Yeah, which is stupid now. Yeah.
That's like my high school. I went to Doane Academy, but up until the year I got there, it was St. Mary's Hall Doane Academy, and anybody that graduated before me was angry about the name change and refused to just call it by Doane Academy. It was always going to be St. Mary's Hall. Eagles coming off their first loss of the year to the Lions. Tough game, 24-23. You lose by a point. You know, me and Ralph touched on that a little bit last week when we saw the line. The Lions were a home underdog. Always got to worry about those home dogs.
Yep.
Ended up, I guess, being the case, the line should have told us something there. Still probably should have won the football game, even with 14 penalties called on the Eagles, two against the Lions. I know, Sean, you think that's ridiculous. I agree a little. That's you've got one team that's sometimes getting called for way more penalties than the other, but 14-2 a little.
Well,
bit
it was
extreme.
actually, like I was telling you earlier, it would have actually supposed to be 16 if they would have threw the one flag, which the officials told Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
That the report came out that they didn't throw it. They decided to let that one slide. And then
that's the NFL
if they didn't pick up the other one, which the Eagles got a 30-yard gain on with the Jordan Matthews catch, that would have been another one. So there would have been 16 calls.
Terrible officiating around the NFL all year this year. It just continues. It seems like I remember complaining about it Super Bowl last year. Ralph, remember me coming in the week after the Super Bowl, just going off, just destroying the officiating in that Super Bowl game because it was 100% terrible.
Was Pete in that game?
No, that was that was Clint Stedman or whatever that guy's name, the hillbilly sounding redneck from Arkansas or whatever. Every time I hear his name, I feel he's from like one of those shows, Green Acres or something.
I can't even remember officials back.
He's a wheat farmer from Arkansas. It's Clint Stedman. I feel like he's going to talk and call penalties with a toothpick in his mouth. We've all met those guys, 80-year-old grandfather's got the toothpick in his mouth as he's planting his flowers out in his garden. Yeah.
Speaking of toothpicks, I was thinking about you guys with.
Is that a joke? I know I'm 130 pounds over here, Sean. Toothpicks. So you think of me?
No, with Fitzpatrick. 2 weeks ago, they had like one of them. What do they call it? Vines or the picture when they write on top of it.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, they had a picture.
He's from Harvard. He tries to act like he's smart. He's got to act like he's smarter than everybody else.
When he threw 9 interceptions in 2 games or something like that.
6 of them against Kansas City.
They said Ryan Fitzpatrick throws more picks than Scott Hall throws picks. I just thought it was
interesting.
Funny.
Yes, yeah. Perfect with Carson Wentz being the new Wentz order in Philadelphia that we have a wrestling reference on the rundown. I feel like a lot more wrestling references are going to be coming around now more often than ever have when we're talking about sports radio. Now that's Carson Wentz's big nickname, the NWO, the new Wentz order. The Rundown on ATDRadio.com brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City. Easy to get 2 minutes off of exit 37 of the Parkway if you ever wanted the ultimate driving experience. It's closer than you think at BMW of Atlantic City. Go to 6037 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, or give them a call at 609-568-9200. Who wins the game this week? Eagles, Redskins. Pretty simple. It's right down the middle, A or B. I do agree with that logic. Bounce back game. You're coming off of a loss in Detroit.
And Jordan Reed, I heard,
he's out.
Jordan Reed is out.
Concussion protocol.
Is it now? Let me ask you: is it finalized?
Yeah,
he's out.
Okay, because I heard that they're saying that he went through a walkthrough on Friday. Like I'm hearing all kinds of reports.
He's done.
Okay, as long as he's completely out, then
so that's two.
They still have Vernon Davis, though.
Yeah. They do, and Vernon Davis is still a freak. He always will be.
Yeah.
He's an older freak now, but he's still a freak, and, who knows if we have somebody that can match up with him. If we try to put a linebacker on him.
I'd much rather go at my chances against Vernon Davis
than
Jordan Reed.
Well, true.
You saw what happened
Jordan Reed.
Week 16.
Jordan Reed, we know we're going to put a safety on.
I saw what happened 2 weeks ago, too.
Vernon Davis we might take for granted and try to put a linebacker on, and that's probably going to be a mismatch in favor of the Redskins. So I'd like to see Malcolm Jenkins.
You want to know what the shame about Jordan Reed? This is his 6th concussion.
Yeah.
That's not good, bro.
No, it's not. He's not even been in the league that long.
Yeah,
either,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And another
more,
one,
he might be done.
Sidney Crosby, another one. He's going through so many concussions.
Sidney Crosby's a baby.
Lindros. I mean,
that's what happens when you don't.
Yeah, but concussions are serious, man.
Yeah. Everybody comes to hit you, and you don't want to hit other people. When you go into the fetal position before you get hit, that's not good. Like, you need to, kind of brace yourself for that hit, try to throw a shoulder into the hit. Yep. Somebody's coming to hit you, Ralph. You play hockey, coach hockey, right? Yeah. Coming to get hit to hockey on the ice, right? Somebody's going to come and try to check you. You don't just sit there and curl up into that fetal position and take the hit. No, you got to brace yourself. You throw that shoulder up back into them. Mm-hmm. You're trying to throw a hit at the same time they're throwing a hit into you. That's the way it works. You want to sit there and be Sidney Crosby and be a puss and go into the fetal position and you get smacked against the boards. That's what happens.
Listen, I'm not a fan of him. I don't like him either, but the dude is good.
Who, Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, he is.
He's very good.
He's very good. I would want him on the Flyers. And a lot of people are like, oh, no way, I would never want him Flyers, bro.
Yeah, well, they're just a bunch of haters.
They're a bunch of haters. I definitely would take him.
Sinsudi's one of those.
I would take him.
Metal Matt's like, nope, I would not have him on the Flyers. I'm like, you're a hater.
You're
lying.
on drugs.
You are lying. You're a complete delusional. Yeah. See, this is why, and that's. I can't stand Flyers fans.
Yeah, but you got to take them. Yeah.
That's why I can't. I don't like Flyers because Flyers fans have that logic. A lot of them have that logic with their hockey pucks for brains. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on being a logical fan base here in Philadelphia, and for me, out of the 4 major sports, the most illogical fans I talk to in this city are Flyers fans.
Yeah,
100%
you were never
100% of the time.
Flyers fan.
Well, I was a Flyers fan growing up because I was just always 4 for 4 in this city. I was brought up being a Philadelphia fan. So when I was younger, I was a Flyers fan by default. But I stopped being a Flyers fan because every time I had conversations with Flyers fans, I felt like I walked out of the conversation a couple IQ points dumber. So I just, decided I can't be a Flyers fan anymore.
You got to understand something. A lot of the Flyers fans
are idiots. Yes,
they want to bleed only black and orange. They don't think about anything else. They don't like any other player. These guys just want to just focus.
Well, how logical is that?
But I'm just telling you, man. They don't.
We don't like it.
They're all like that.
They're trying to tell me.
All of our fan bases are like that, really. Though. That's no excuse for being a stupid fan base.
I know a diehard Flyers fan at work. Okay, and this guy's telling me that if Alex Ovechkin had a chance to be a Flyer, he wouldn't want him. If Sidney Crosby, if Evgeny Malkin, if these players right there, I'm going, okay, so you just named the 3 of the top 5 best players in the world, and you won't want them on your team?
He doesn't want Connor McDavid either.
Well, he never said anything about it. He only talked about
Say it like you're a Canadian, McDavid.
Well, I'm just telling you.
Sounds so much more badass. Like, if I was Connor McDavid, I would demand that, people in the media know it's McDavid.
Did you see Austin Matthews?
Austin Matthews, dude.
Yeah, how about that? He's
from America, too.
He's American.
He's from
Arizona.
Arizona,
yeah. And he grew up a Phoenix Coyote fan.
Yeah.
How am I, what? We have I didn't know Coyotes fans existed.
First
in this
ever
country.
Game putting 4 in, dude.
Listen, that's what happens.
Still impressive.
It's impressive no matter what. But now he'll be double teamed, and everybody's gonna, he's not gonna get as many open looks as he did in that first game.
I told I was someone.
Although he was pretty dirty. The one goal, the second goal, he really
with Erik Karlsson.
Well, he stole it away, and then he kind of deked a couple guys, and that was pretty dirty.
Someone shared on my news feed the 4 goals that happened with Austin Matthews. So I said, let me know when he has 52 goals this year because Alex Ovechkin did that his rookie year.
Yes.
His rookie year, Ovechkin put 52 up.
See, here's the thing. He plays, all of a sudden, the Maple Leafs, who haven't been good for a long time, the Oilers, who've been terrible for a long time, almost ceased to exist at one point. Yeah. Remember when they almost moved and weren't the Edmonton Oilers anymore?
Yeah.
Now they have Connor McDavid. And the Maple Leafs have this Austin Matthews kid. That's a rivalry in the making.
The only
could
team,
be the best rivalry in hockey going forward for the next decade.
The only team in the last decade, that got shafted is the Flyers because the Flyers were the worst team.
Listen.
Hear me out. Yes, they did.
Stop it.
You want to know?
The Flyers created all of their own problems.
Do you want me to finish? And I'll show you.
Not really.
In 2007, the Flyers were the worst team in hockey, and they lost a coin toss to Chicago, and Chicago picked Patrick Kane, which was NHL MVP last season.
We would have figured out a way to trade Patrick Kane away before we ever stepped foot on the ice with the Flyers.
No way.
Yep.
No, and
That's exactly what would have happened.
And we got James Van Riemsdyk.
He wasn't enough of a tough guy for Ed Snyder.
Dude,
he can't win a fist fight. He can score 40 goals, but he can't win a fist fight.
James Van Riemsdyk still to this day never scored 30 goals. still to this day.
They
I'm just saying.
They would have worked the trade to, like, draft him over top. Like, we're going to trade him so we can get Van Riemsdyk. Like, I'm telling you, like, the Flyers would have messed that one up. If they had the top pick, they would have figured out a way to mess up Patrick Kane.
Zach, 3 years later, Patrick Kane scored a game-winning goal in overtime to beat him in the Stanley Cup.
No, he didn't.
Huh?
What? No, he didn't. What? I'm just
I was about to say.
Look at the way I push his button so quick. It's so easy to instigate
I'm like,
Sean. All I got to do, at some point, watch, you're going to sit firsthand. You're going to see firsthand today. They're going to get into this DeSean Jackson conversation.
I already told.
How DeSean needs to come back to
DeSean
Philly.
needs to come back.
I already told him. I'm not asking questions.
DeSean is a losing football player. DeSean's not a winning football player.
I already asked Ralph. I said, Ralph,
go.
I'm not asking the question. Just ask him the question today. If there's 66% of the city on a vote is saying that they want to bring DeSean Jackson back, there was like 30% they said no.
Dude, he would be our third wide receiver here.
You're drugs. He's on drugs.
You're going to put him on the outside of Jordan Matthews. Who's he over? He's over both of them?
Dude, he's better than any wide receiver we have on our team.
You're ridiculous.
How am I ridiculous?
That is a ridiculous asinine comment. He is not a better receiver.
He's a two-time All-Pro wide receiver.
Yeah, Sean, he's not a. At this point in his career, he is not a better receiver than what Jordan Matthews is.
I know he don't drop bombs, just like Jordan Matthews does. I know he don't drop bombs.
Jordan Matthews has been a stud all year so far.
Does DeSean Jackson ever drop bombs?
No.
Be real.
You are crazy.
No.
Does DeSean Jackson?
No. Sean, see, this is why I cannot do this with you.
He don't ever drop bombs.
Yes, he does. He drops passes all the time.
Not.
Oh my God,
50
you are
or more. No, we
ridiculous.
don't.
DeSean Jackson, baby. Over Jordan Matthews, I'll take DeSean Jackson.
You guys are both ridiculous. The guy does one thing in this league. He's known for stretching the field. He has never been a complete receiver.
The field, your running game gets better, baby.
Now he wasn't a complete receiver then.
Guess
He's
what?
never going to be a complete receiver. Those guys are not number ones in this league,
You
Sean.
know what happens? You know what happens if you're all over them? There goes the flag.
Yeah.
Sean, you want to know what's funny is when we had this. Sean, what do you want to know what's funny is when we had this argument before? When we had this argument before, all the feedback I got on the show was how ridiculous your argument was, how wrong you are.
I actually got that made differ. Do you know we have a lot of people that dropped off this show that don't listen because you?
I'm sure.
I'm just being honest.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Sean. Sean, listen.
I'm just telling you the truth.
Sean, you could say you could.
I'm just being
Sean,
real.
That's ridiculous because
it's not ridiculous,
yes, it is.
People told me that they
well, then
don't
those
listen
people are idiots.
to our show anymore because of you.
Well, then those people are idiots, Sean, because the people here that know radio, the people that are smart and intelligent and know radio know that I carry the show. So you can think whatever you want. But if those people stop listening because of me, then they're idiots.
Well, they're idiots.
Because I'm what's made this show go. I'm the reason why this show has gone and grown as much as it has. If you don't think this show has grown from the moment you got here till now, then that's crazy.
I don't know. Let's go check how many people last week. How many people?
Just because Trisha doesn't listen because she's dating you and doesn't like the fact that I don't let you talk enough.
I didn't say Trisha.
Just because Ralph's mom listens and doesn't think he talks enough doesn't make them smart and intelligent and correct.
I didn't say Trisha. I didn't say her. She's
just because you have people that listen.
I never said her. I never said her one bit. I'm just telling you, there are people that told me that they don't listen to me.
Great.
That's all I'm saying.
Right, and the people that know what they're talking about will tell you that that's the most ridiculous thing they've ever heard. So
that's all I'm telling you.
We could disagree about this all day. Isn't it fun? This is what we do. See, Nick's getting his first experience with the rundown. We're entertaining, aren't we? This is fun, right?
This is interesting.
It's fun.
I'm sitting over here laughing and enjoying it. I'm having a good time today, guys.
Like this is what's so fun to me about this. It's so ridiculous about this whole thing to me is that you think you're right. And that's what's so crazy about the whole thing, which is fine. Because listen, that's why we agree to disagree radio. Sometimes it's fun for us not. It actually, as a matter of fact, it's more fun when you don't agree with me. I love when you don't agree with me. Because it becomes now fun to push your buttons and instigate an argument.
They have another poll that came out today saying that who are the three factors that they're worried about? Are they worried about Vitali? What is his name? Big V. Are they worried about Big
Well,
V?
yeah, he's a
first ever
concern.
game? Are they worried about that? Are they worried about DeSean Jackson? Right. Or are they going to be worried about Kirk Cousins? And most of the poll was they're worrying about even Ike Reese, and you can call him a retard, but he played in the NFL. He's saying, I'm worried about number 11. I'm worried about guys that can just run right by you.
But I agree. But hold on. But think of your other two options there.
Well, I'm listening.
Hold on. I'm going to be more concerned about DeSean than I am about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is an average quarterback in this league.
Who else on the Washington Redskins scare you?
Nobody. I mean, DeSean Jackson doesn't even scare me. But if we're going to pick between those three, then I guess by default he wins. But nobody on that team scares me. He doesn't scare me.
I would love to have DeSean back.
It's not going to happen. You got to take it out of your head. Jeffrey Lurie.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
What would he do on this team that would make him a fat? I would agree with this that he would stretch the field.
The run game would be.
I would agree with this that he would stretch the field better than any receiver we have.
The run game would be a lot better.
But that's the only reason he would have a role on this team. He would return kicks and punts, which he's very good at, so that would make him valuable. And then he would be.
Well, no, I'm going to go with still going to go with Sproles on that.
I think I'd put DeSean to return kicks over Sproles.
No, he hasn't done it this year. He hasn't.
Well, that's just because they don't want him getting injured out there. But I still think he's probably if you were to have him return kicks and punts full time in this league, he's one of the better return men in this league. He's an explosive playmaker. You get the ball in his hands, you let him do things. You let him make plays.
Zach, I wouldn't.
Sproles is on danger of not seeing the field.
I wouldn't bring DeSean Jackson back for any type of big money. I would bring DeSean Jackson if we're ever going to consider DeSean Jackson to come back. It's going to be at a minimum cost. It's not going to be.
Well, if you're asking me would I bring him back on a minimum cost, then yeah.
It's going
because
to be
it's low risk, high reward.
That's where I'm getting at. I'm not going to
go. But you talk about the guy like he's. But you
for
but
$7
don't lie.
I'm not going to go sign him for $7
But don't lie. But you overvalue the guy
because
you say he's a number one receiver in this league.
Zach, the guy is he number one receiver on the Washington Redskins?
Only because they don't have a number one wide receiver.
Well, they won the division last year. Let's keep in mind.
Yeah, but they don't have a number one wide receiver. So by default, he wins because he's a bunch of he's with a bunch of other muck over there. In this league, when you line up receivers in this league, he's not a number one receiver.
I can name you probably 7 teams off the top of my head who'd be number one wide receiver.
Who, DeSean would be a number one wide receiver on? Well, a lot of teams don't have good wide receivers.
Oh, my God. Now we're going to go good teams don't have wide receivers. But I can name you teams.
There's a lot of teams that don't have good wide receivers.
I'm just saying, he would be number one on a lot of teams in the NFL. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, on teams that don't have it, that don't have anybody that's an established number one. Yeah, he's a number two at best on any team. But if you're a team without good receivers, then he by default becomes a one.
On the Eagles, so Jordan Matthews is their number one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's at the slot.
Oh, well,
they don't even got him.
I would probably put him in the slot just because I don't know if DGB plays in the slot. Does Dorial Green Beckham play in the slot?
Zach, they don't even have him on the outside. That's bad.
Who?
They don't even have Jordan Matthews.
Jordan Matthews has played on the outside all year.
Their best wide receiver. They prefer him.
He's been playing outside all year. If you watch the majority of the snaps, they have moved him outside. He has not been in the slot anywhere near as much as he was last year.
So if he comes back, if DeSean Jackson comes back, they're not going to move him on the outside. They're going to bring. What are they going to do? I mean,
if Dorial Green Beckham can play all over the field, I think you put DeSean outside and maybe you let Dorial. You try to find a mismatch with Dorial Green Beckham. Let him be 6'5", put him all over the field. Put him on the slot outside. Put him on the slot inside of Jordan. Put him on the slot inside of DeSean.
The mismatch
wherever
would be
your
in the
mismatch
slot.
is, you line him up.
I'm going to tell you though,
if not, I put DeSean there and just throw him down the field.
If DeSean Jackson comes back, you do know who's not going to be on this team anymore, right?
Who's that?
Nelson Aguilar.
Well, I'm fine with that.
I'm just telling you.
Nelson Aguilar stinks. I don't like Aguilar.
Josh
Huff stinks. Nelson Aguilar stinks.
This is his chance. He needs from here on out. He needs to show them why he should be on this roster.
Why he's a number one pick, first round pick.
No, they're giving him 2 years to do something.
Bro, dude, he sucks. He's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he looks
very bad.
Carson Wentz has made him look good at times this year.
Very bad.
On a normal team, Nelson Aguilar stinks.
By the way, look. Carson Wentz, should he threw that bomb down the field in the first play? No.
If he was going to throw the bomb, he should have thrown it to Green Beckham.
Hold on, we'll get in.
Try to track that.
We'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that in about 10 to 20 minutes or so when we break down this Eagles game. But yeah, I agree with that. A good wide receiver. That was one-on-one. The safety was leaking over late. For the most part, it was one-on-one coverage. And Aguilar, a good wide receiver in that position, at least makes a play on the football.
Yeah.
Aguilar didn't even make a play.
Break it up.
Gave Wentz no help.
I don't care if you got to drag him to the ground. And
it wasn't that bad of a ball. Like if you go up and try to make a play on that, you might even be able to have a chance of making a catch.
Did you see him try to?
He had to play defense.
But did you see him try to track the ball?
It was terrible.
It was terrible.
Yeah, he didn't.
He's going.
He put himself in no position to make a play. Yes,
he even knew what the hell it was.
That was a big problem on that play. Yes,
he reminded me of a bad outfielder trying to track the ball.
It reminded me of Tim Tebow trying to track a ball. Did you see that? Him running face first in the Arizona Fall League for the Mets. He missed a fly ball and ran face first into the wall.
Oh.
He face planted into the wall. They had like a meme with him like frozen against the wall with like 2 legs up against the wall, one arm down here, another arm here, face planted.
Hey,
it was awesome.
If that organization wants to go and just make jersey sales and just
of course,
the Tim Tebow name,
in typical Tim Tebow fashion, because he's the attention whore that he is.
Yeah.
He is the sports world's version of Donald Trump, a complete attention whore that needs to have the spotlight on him at all times. He runs into the wall face first, and of course it's going to get all types of attention. They ask him a question. He says he's been hit harder, but of course he's got to one up himself. Oh, I got to be Tim Tebow. I got to make everybody. The attention's got to be on me. What he do after the game? Some guy is having a seizure in the front row of the stands, and he went and reached over and put his hand on the guy's head and said a prayer until the guy stopped having a seizure and paramedics got there. We all get it. Tim Tebow's a good guy, but are we serious right now? Yeah, exactly. Like that's really. Come on,
he's God.
He's God. Like, are we serious right now? Football, now he's going to play pro baseball, and it's all because, he's so blessed to have been given the ability that God gives him. Now he can heal seizures. He can stop seizures mid-seizure. He can stop it from happening. It's ridiculous.
I never even heard it. I don't even know how you heard all this.
I've got no life. This is what I do.
I never heard it. Tim Tebow, when he pops up on my news feed or something, I scroll.
I sit at home coming up, looking at sports stories to, come up with, ideas and, the stuff to talk about.
Wasn't he on our list of people that you just want to,
I just want him to go away.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
him and Kaepernick were tied for the lead, and people I want to go away.
That's why I don't even by the way, your boy, the swimmer, he finally went away, right?
Yeah, well, no, now he's on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, so he didn't go away.
He didn't go away.
He did the opposite. I wanted him to go away. He decided to sign a deal with ABC for Dancing with the Stars.
The 49ers are going to turn around their season. Watch.
Stop it. The Bills are going to blow them out by 21 points.
Watch.
Who?
Kaepernick is starting against the Bills this week. The Bills are going to tear him up.
You know what? You just made my mind up. I was deciding.
Chip Kelly got his running quarterback.
Do I start in Seattle?
Chip got his running quarterback.
Listen, wait,
so terrible.
Wait. Time out. Hold on a second. Who are they playing against? 49ers are playing
the Bills are playing the 49ers in Buffalo, and Buffalo's a touchdown favorite. Buffalo with their defense is going to destroy Colin Kaepernick.
Yo, you made my mind up because San Francisco's getting 9 points.
Yeah, that's a blowout.
All right. So what's happened is I'm starting over Seattle. I'm starting my Buffalo team, my Buffalo Bills defense.
Watch that be a
over
shutout.
Seattle
Yeah.
because of that.
Watch that be a shutout. It'll be like 28-zip.
No.
Buffalo wins.
Colin Kaepernick's going to have like 400 yards.
No, stop. Kaepernick's done. He hasn't had a healthy shoulder in 2 years.
I know.
It's not going to magically.
He's like 200 pounds now. He
unless-
literally is skin and bones. Did you see him the other day practicing without pads at the 49ers facility?
He's a toothpick.
Yo, he really was. I was like, dude, that's my Halloween costume. I'm going to go get an afro, and I'm going to be Colin Kaepernick for Halloween.
Buffalo's top 3 best defense, right?
Yeah, that defense is starting to play legit.
I just want to see how he can fit that helmet on the afro.
My fantasy football, I'm 5-0.
So, yeah, he's going to have to tie that thing up.
You have 5 more wins than I do.
I'm 5-0, yeah. I got Seattle
He's
and
like,
Buffalo.
I wish I had your team.
I got Seattle and Buffalo. So it's like I was deciding of who's going to do it, and I don't look at the football polls until Friday until I hand them in because I'll switch things up.
Yeah.
So I just do it. So you guys just made my mind up. I didn't even look at that game yet, but you just told me that San Fran's playing against Buffalo.
You're gonna be shocked.
I'm starting Buffalo over.
Yeah.
You're gonna be shocked.
I'll tell you what.
That team is clicking. Did you watch the end of that game against LA? I was watching the end of that game. That team, you can say what you want about, Rex and whether it's hot air and whether or not, his shenanigans actually get that team fired up. That team was playing with an emotion and a chip on their shoulder. They believe in themselves. And the Bengals are about to go to 2-4 this week?
Yeah.
When they play whoever they play New England and about to get their asses kicked. All of a sudden, that AFC playoff picture, Buffalo has a weak schedule going forward.
Very weak.
They play San Francisco this week and then Miami next week. They could be at 5-2 before they play anybody that's even competitive again. And all of a sudden with Cincinnati at 2-4, they look like they could sneak in the side door of that picture. They believe in themselves. That's scary when teams believe in themselves and actually think they could win. They need to get some help, but so far they've gotten some help.
I still think they're going to be like 8, if anything 8-8.
But 9-7 could when you think Cincinnati's could struggle to get the 8 wins and there's not going to be there's only going to be one playoff team from the AFC South. So the only other team that you look at the Jets are now struggling. Baltimore is really the only other team where you look at that has a chance at the second wild card. Is Baltimore really a 9-win team? I don't know. Baltimore might be an 8-win team. 8 wins might be that second wild card spot. Yeah. Oh, that AFC playoff picture. Actually, the playoff pictures on both sides
are very
interesting.
Yeah. Jets
very
8,
interesting.
Jets are getting 8 this week against Arizona.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if New York beats Arizona there and gets on the right track. One of those teams is having a disastrous season. And if Arizona loses to the Jets,
I think Arizona's
nosedive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets get back
one.
on the right track.
Carolina's
Same thing, yeah.
one, yeah.
They really need to win that game. Don't they play Atlanta this week?
Carolina plays the Saints, and they're going to
Play
destroy
the
them.
You think they destroy the Saints?
Cam Newton.
That's in New Orleans.
I'm pretty sure Cam Newton has only lost to the Saints once.
What's going on with that?
That's in New
What's
Orleans.
going on with Sean Payton and Drew
Well, they haven't been good for the past 3 years, but in
saying,
New Orleans
what's
they win.
happening to that,
Drew
man?
Brees caught a case of the olds, man. He doesn't look like he used to.
Nah.
And
Well,
And
he
a case of the Brett
kept on
Favres.
throwing for over 4,000 yards a season.
Well, that's what happens when you
Yeah.
throw the ball almost 700 times a year.
Yeah.
got a
Me
good
and you
point.
would throw for 4,000 yards.
He doesn't have the best offensive line either. I keep seeing
They have
they
no
get pressure back
defense.
there all the time.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
This is the Rundown, A2DRadio.com. We'll break down the Eagles-Lions when we come back, get into this Eagles-Redskins game. Who is going to win Eagles-Redskins this week? A, Eagles. B, Redskins. Pretty simple, open and shut. We'll get into our against the spread a little bit after that. Ralph, we're going to have the Ralph Delavecchio Facebook posts of the week.
Man.
We're doing that again?
the Rundown,
Damn
A2DRadio.com. We're brought to you
Thought that was
by
only 1
Gibson
week.
Mayer LLC, certified public accountants, 301 Oxford Valley Road, Yardley, Pennsylvania, 215-369-3300.
A2DRadio.com is sponsored by the Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030 or email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com for all your sporting needs. The Sports Outlet.
Hey, do you need to get your skills in shape? Then contact the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. John Scanzano offers individual, semi-private, and team training lessons in hitting, pitching, catching, outfield, along with turf rentals. The Scanzano Sports Center is equipped with a 31,000 square foot indoor facility, 4 batting cages, and a 4,000 square foot strengthening and conditioning room. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Scanzano Sports Center today.
A2DRadio.com is proudly sponsored by Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Tom and Mike from AM and the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's gibsonmayer.com.
You're listening to The Rundown, only on A2DRadio.com.
This is the Rundown on A2DRadio.com, brought to you by Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Give them a call at 856-889-3434. Visit their website, www.scanzanosports.com. 35,000 square foot hitting facilities. They run AAU travel baseball teams there. Now I've got AAU wrestling programs. Anybody out there, youth sports, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, that is the training facility, the premier training facility in South Jersey. We're talking Eagles, Redskins preview, Eagles, Lions review as the Lions handed the Eagles their first loss of the year. A lot of things to take away from it, I should say. 14 penalties for the Eagles, only 2 for the Lions. Probably, more about bad officiating than anything else. But you lose by a point with there being that big of a differential as far as penalties went. If Ryan Matthews doesn't have the fumble on a questionable play call there on the final drive leading up to the 2-minute warning, it's all irrelevant anyway because you probably win the game even with all the penalties. So when you look at this win, or when you look at this loss, I should say, I look at it's more of a fluky loss, or more of a fluky win on the part of the Lions, and a more of a, we beat ourselves type of thing on the part of the Eagles than it really is a telling victory on Detroit's part. They didn't really beat the Eagles. The Eagles did a lot of things to beat themselves.
Well, by the way,
we had a minute 28 left on the clock, by the way, too.
Yeah. By the way,
that
with
ball,
no timeouts, but you went for the juggler.
Well, see,
and I showed you a picture of Aguilar of.
Yeah, but that's for me. I can't. That's clean defense because if it's the other way around and the Eagles are on defense there, but
what I'm saying to you is, if you're going to call rinky-dink plays on the Eagles,
I got that. But to my point, but we can't. I don't play the what-if game. You see what I'm saying? I look at it as it was bad officiating. The whole game was bad officiating. Bottom line, it was terrible officiating. The bad calls that happened were the bad calls that happened. Should some of them not been made? Yeah, absolutely. Should some calls have been made that weren't?
The crew
absolutely.
we had this week are actually good. They're balanced.
Well, let's hope so.
They're
but
balanced.
I'm not confident with any officiating crew throughout football.
That fumble that Ryan Matthews did should have been a dead ball fourth down.
Yeah.
Well, 4th down and 3.
Listen,
I saw it.
That's one of those calls that wasn't called that maybe
How
should
do you
have
not
been.
pick that up?
It was one of those calls that maybe, what you guys are talking about is Jason Kelce
They freaking reviewed it.
Was laying, his arm was
Jordan
possibly
Matthews,
out of bounds.
By the way, that check down for Jordan Matthews on that last
that ball should have went to Jordan
Matthews.
Matthews.
Should have went to Jordan Matthews,
yes,
and Wentz missed him.
It was open.
Listen, if you were going to throw a deep
he
ball.
either missed him or he decided to try to go for the jugular down the field.
If you were going to throw a deep ball, you got a 6'5" receiver, Darrell Green Beckham. You throw it up to him.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of sending Aguilar. I mean, I get it.
I guess
I
get it.
Aguilar on that
Yo,
bomb.
I get it. He's the fastest receiver that we have.
But I don't.
That was
I don't
that was the
trust
point
He's
of it.
stupid, dude.
But well, see,
I don't trust him there.
That's why I feel like Wentz with more experience. What I'm doing there, if I'm Wentz, is if I don't feel like I can 100%, I don't trust Aguilar to go up and make a play on the football. So unless I can get enough air underneath of it where he's either running underneath of it to make a catch or he's not going to run far enough to get to it and it's overthrown, I'm either making that throw where he's either running underneath it and catching it or it's too far for him, or I'm just going to throw it out of bounds once I see it's not there. I'm not going to throw it up and put it in his hands and let him make a play.
Safety coming over and a 1-on-1 coverage on the other side.
The safety came
the safety
late.
was really late.
I know.
Which is why really all Aguilar has to do is go up and try to make a play on the football, and he doesn't. And which is why if I'm Wentz, I now know I have the ability. The safety's coming over late. If I want to throw that ball away and just maybe throw it over everybody's head and throw it out of bounds, I can do that too. And instead, maybe he tried to force it down the field a little bit. It was his third read on the play, and he went from the first read to the second, and then I guess saw that and saw 1-on-1 and decided to take the shot.
But here's the scoop. Even he messed up on his tracking. All right, Nelson Aguilar. But what I'm going to do, and I'm going to touch base on what you were saying about, you got to fight for that ball. If he's going and he's picking it up, you got to go and try to lunge and knock that ball out.
Absolutely.
Or, I don't care if you have to take a 15-yard
personal
foul.
Get an offensive pass interference.
Whatever you have to do so you get another chance and it's second down or if they're going to decline or whatever they're going to do. You have to go and you have to make a play on that ball.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, I mean, we all know that was poor tracking. I watched it over and over again for that tracking. It was completely,
it was terrible. Very bad.
But, yeah, Jordan Matthews was wide open, definitely.
Well, yeah, Doug Peterson acknowledged that the day after on the press conference that the football should have gone to Jordan Matthews, and it didn't. I mean, and that's, that was one of those things, that's a growing pain thing on Wentz's part. He has a lot fewer growing pains than most young quarterbacks do. But, I mean, if you think that he's not going to have moments like this, we're asking for too much as a fan base. There's going to be moments like this where something like that's going to happen. He missed a wide open man underneath, took a shot down the field, ends up being intercepted.
Now, do you think the Eagles are going to put Brent Selleck on the line for as far as to help up that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to get very creative with all types of blocking packages.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Brett Selleck's one of the best blockers in the league, and I think
you have to use
you have to use him to help Big V because I'm to be honest with you guys, I'm a little confused. You have Stefan Wisniewski on the bench who started 77 games at one time, was the 10th best center in the league.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. He can only play center, so how do you move? Where do you move Kelsey? Can Kelsey play somewhere else? I don't know if he can.
Nah, Wisniewski said he could play guard. He said he did. He has before. I mean, it's not his natural position, but he has before.
Do you want to? Yeah, I mean,
a fifth round rookie who was deemed a project, and actually by a lot of the league, a lot of the scouts said that we took Big V a round or two early.
But for me, I mean, you're kind of it's you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. I mean,
you really don't have a choice.
You don't really know what you're doing with Wisniewski. You don't really know what you're going to get with Big V, so you just take a pick. It's not Wisniewski's natural position. He's a veteran now. He's been in the league a long time. Do I really expect him to move over to a position that's not his natural position and play lights out at guard? No, not really. Do I think Big V's going to be lights out? No, but
he's a fifth-round draft pick.
If I hope, as long as he's not terrible, okay. You know what I'm saying?
He's just going to be a guy in this league. That's all.
As long as he's not now. If he's King Dunlap terrible,
oh my
or something like that.
By the way,
how is he still in this league?
He still starts.
How is he still playing in this league?
You want to know something? You want to hear something crazy?
I remember him.
And Winston Justice.
Jeez, would you stop?
Oh my God!
Would you stop?
As long as he's not like that type of disaster, we'll be okay.
Ate him for lunch. Remember that?
That was bad.
The 5 sacks.
Yeah.
I think he had 7 in a game, 5 for OC.
Yeah. I think it was like 5.
5 for OC,
crazy.
7 for the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. So as long as Big V's not like that type of terrible.
Is it bad that I'll always remember him for that?
No, I actually remember. I think it was either it might have been King Dunlap, but it was either Justice or Dunlap. But it was either a year or two after that game, and I think it was the year that we were it was Andy's final year. It was the disaster. We were losing everything, and we had
his son passed away.
We had a beat up offensive line, and I think King Dunlap was starting, and we were playing like a Sunday night game against San Diego or something. Maybe he had like 8 holding penalties, playing left out. Like he could not block somebody clean.
Couple false starts too, I think. Right?
Like every time somebody tried to come around the corner, he wouldn't get down low and actually block. He was just reaching out and like bear hugging him with like a left arm and like wrapping the left arm around the neck. I was like, that's just a poor effort. It's like the old ESPN commercial where he's got Jimmy Rollins with the guy that hosts Scott Van Pelt or whatever who hosts Sports Center and
the midnight or whatever.
Yeah, the midnight sport and they're looking at film and Jimmy's like, what concerns me is this motion right here, and Scott Van Pelt's like, is that bad? And Jimmy's like, that's not good. And he's like, I'm embarrassed. That's a poor effort. Like that's how I was like, really like. King Dunlap didn't even try. It looked like sometimes we drafted him in like the 7th round because he was supposed to be some type of project player that was big and strong, 6'8".
Yeah, I don't know how he's
and was supposed to develop. And I mean, he just that was.
In order
that
for
was
the
terrible.
Eagles to be successful in this game, there's one entity that they need to be very good on, and that's special teams this week. I think the special teams need to come to play. I really do. When I mean special teams, if it's a block punt. Or a block field goal, or a Kenyon Barner punt, you know what I mean? A kickoff, or a Josh Huff return, or a Darren Sproles return.
They usually do like special teams plays against the Redskins.
That's what I'm saying.
Or at least the NFC East as a whole. They always have big special teams play against the NFC East.
For me, the key to this game is our defense ability to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. If our defense gets pressure on Kirk Cousins, it's going to be a rough day for Washington. You get in his face and get in his grill a little bit, hit him in the chops a couple times, and he just falls apart.
He looks like a scared dog.
He falls apart back there in the pocket. He's next thing you know, he's
who's that number 80 last year that ate the Eagles up?
Wasn't that Jordan Reed? Didn't he eat us up last year?
No, he's 86. Jordan Reed's 86.
Oh, Jamison Crowder.
Jamison Crowder.
The Duke kid.
DeSean didn't even play, but they had Crowder, they had Jordan Reed, and they had Pierre Garçon. Yeah.
Ate us up. Thank God we don't got Billy Davis no more in that freaking 3-4-4 defense.
For me, like that's where, if Kirk Cousins can look very good at times, but then there's other times he can look very average. And that's for me where you can you can get the average Kirk Cousins to come, out of his shell and take over a football game. Get in his face, get in his chops. He'll make mistakes. You saw the Dallas game in the red zone. He doesn't only make mistakes. He makes terrible decisions.
If there's pressure on him,
he ends up making terrible decisions.
Yeah, very bad decisions.
He gets happy feet. He rushes throws.
Worse than Eli?
Oh, terrible. Yeah,
because Eli sometimes makes
he gets
some
Eli-itis.
bonehead. I mean, not the old Eli, the Eli Manning now.
Well, Eli's always had that, where you get Eli. He gets Eli-itis, and by that I mean
misses a linebacker, throws it right to him.
If you get in his face, he might go into the fetal position to take a sack rather than standing in there to try to make a throw. You get in his face, hit him in the chops a couple times. Next thing you know, here comes Fletcher Cox barreling through the defensive line, and he just goes into the fetal position and balls up.
By the way,
doesn't even try to make a play.
Like Peyton Manning.
Right.
By the way,
exactly.
How many times did you? And I hate to keep bringing this up, but how many times did you see Fletcher Cox couldn't get through because he's getting gripped up?
Yeah, dude, he's getting double teamed every play.
I know. Last game,
I'll tell you what. Sorry to interrupt, but I'll tell you what, because you just got me going. That Detroit game. There was one play very early when Theo Riddick was just eating the defense alive.
It was the first play.
The offensive lineman had Brendan Graham in an MMA chokehold.
Okay.
As you see, Brendan Graham's like his.
See, that's how King Dunlap was blocking.
And there wasn't any call.
That's the King Dunlap school of blocking right there.
Happened 3 times in that game where they were mauling Connor Barwin.
That's what before you came in the door. I was telling Zach and them. That's one of the complaints I had. The first play, what they did was they did a sweep to the outside, and it was a 22-yard play, and Connor Barwin got raped. I mean, Connor Barwin doesn't get right there. He makes that play, But Theo Riddick ran 22 yards for a first down the first play. So I'm right down there. I'm like, But you got to make a call, and they actually have on tape online that the official was getting ready to grab the flag, but he said, first play of the game. Going to tuck it back in.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't hear about that.
And then Ryan Matthews has a 35-yard run down to the 5.
And it's called back. And it's called back. Yeah, I mean, it's irrelevant. Like you said, you kind of got to move past it. It's hard to move past it. But
it'd be one thing if it wasn't that way all around football, but I really feel like if you're a fan of any team, if you watched your team play in enough games each year, you'd see the same thing. You'd have a game where you're like, oh, what? 14 penalties for us against 2 for the other team. That's just terrible. Like, it is terrible. It's kind of like when you watch a basketball game and one team had like 35 fouls called against them, the other team only had like 12, and you're like, there's no way that was actually a true
the NBA Finals
ratio right there. Like the Duke Wisconsin Final Four, championship game from the Final Four a couple years back. By the way, that was that year I called Wisconsin over Kentucky, and I actually predicted a final score that was within 2 points. Wow. And I have evidence.
How did you not bet that over and under?
Because I don't bet really.
You should have did a $50
but
reverse.
If you go back and you listen to After Hours, I was doing After Hours with Frank Vespi at that point, and Rob Povia was producing. And for the whole pretty much 2 weeks that was March Madness leading up to the Final Four, I kept saying, I said, my Final Four matchup is Wisconsin-Kentucky, and Kentucky will not lose until they get to that matchup. Wisconsin will beat them, and I gave a score the week of the game. Wow. I said, I think it was like 72-66, and the final score ended up being like 74-68 or 74-69 or something crazy like that. And my point was Wisconsin doesn't foul. They don't foul. That year with Kaminsky and all them, they were the best team. Sam Decker, they were the best team at playing defense without fouling. They had the least amount of personal fouls per game in college basketball. And then somehow you get to the championship game against Duke, and the whole second half, 10 minutes into the second half, all of a sudden they've got 11 team fouls. Yeah. How does that happen halfway into the second half for the team that has fouled less than any team in college basketball?
It's the boosters.
It's the Coach K syndrome.
Yeah,
because Wisconsin was winning at halftime, and if you remember, Coach K went to the officials and was like, we need to even this out, and kind of had a little conversation. Next thing you know, you come out in the second half, completely different game. And before you know it, you looked at it, and Wisconsin had like 35 team fouls against them compared to Duke having like 16. And in the second half, it was like 20 Wisconsin fouls to like 9 to Duke. Like, that's a ridiculous ratio.
Here's a way that I will forget about this loss completely 100%. If we would go and play, just say, I'm not going to say home cooking against Green Bay, but say happens if we're getting torched by the Packers, and we're completely just getting outplayed, okay? And we somehow, some way, for calls, will come out victorious and beat the Packers. I'll say, you know what? It's a wash-up. We shouldn't have won. We shouldn't have beat the Green Bay Packers, but we did because we got a couple calls.
We
that
got the
went our
favorite
way.
calls in that.
You know what I mean? Now we go to Seattle. Just say forget about the Green Bay, and I didn't even say nothing about the Green Bay. We go to Seattle, and we wind up getting favorable calls, and we wind up beating Seattle in Seattle, which is a hard task to do, and the Eagles wind up winning because of some calls. I would say, you know what? It's a wash. I said, Detroit, we lost Detroit because of calls. We now won Seattle because of calls. Or vice versa.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah.
You find what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'll just say, okay, I'll take them washes.
Ultimately,
right
that ends up what's happening because, and this is my point where, as Eagles fans, we're gonna be a little bit biased about this. At least a lot of us will be. Like that's why I said, if you're a fan of any team around football, you can watch a game and you'll see this same thing. But sometimes we wear our blinders and we're only going to see the bad calls when it's affecting the Eagles. We're not going to sit here and watch a game and see all these bad calls that actually.
Well, there's holding on every play.
We're not going to watch an Eagles game and see a bunch of bad calls that end up actually helping the Eagles. And the next day, we're not going to sit here if we win that game and point out, well, hey, there was a bunch of bad calls that went against the other team and went the Eagles' way, and that's why we won that game. We're never going to have that conversation.
Yeah, fair enough.
As Eagles fans,
but I can't,
we're only going to bring it up when it went against us.
But there's so many. I can't go and pick out calls that went for the Eagles last game at all.
I can't.
That last game, I just can't. I'm sorry, bro. I can't. Maybe you could see the 30-yard pass that they picked the flag out. I don't know. Maybe that's the only thing you could say. But I can't go, and there's not things that I can go and I'm not putting my blinders on. There's nothing that I can go and say the Eagles. This call should have been against the Eagles, but it wasn't. There's last game. Now, we go to Cleveland game, there might be calls, or we go to another game that happened last year or the following, whatever. This week, there might be calls that the Eagles might get that they shouldn't get. You know what I mean? We don't know. But all I'm saying to you is this. For me to forget about this completely, all right, as a fan, is if the Eagles get calls and they somehow, some way beat Seattle in Seattle because of calls and that they shouldn't have got, or Green Bay or whatever, or you know what I mean, vice versa.
Those 3 games are going to be the biggest test for us coming up.
Minnesota.
Cincinnati.
You forgot about them
4
too.
games.
Yeah. And the division games, dude.
You guys know we're playing 4 teams coming off a bye starting next week?
Yeah.
4 teams in a row coming off a bye. Vikings are
that's
on bye.
brutal.
We play them. Then I think it's Dallas. They are on bye when we play Minnesota. Giants are on bye when we play Dallas.
No,
and
and we're playing 13 straight weeks of football.
And then it's somebody else.
Right. Well, I know
and we're playing 13 straight weeks of football. And it is Atlanta. And Atlanta was one of those games at the beginning of the year, and you looked at it and said, they're an average football team. Now you look at them and you're like, oh, God, how are we covering Julio Jones?
You're
how
right.
are we stopping Matt Ryan?
You're right.
How do we handle all this?
Yeah.
And I looked at that, and I was like, you know what? The same thing you're saying right now, I was saying, okay? But then I'm looking at it and going, you know what? They were doing the same old nonsense last year.
They were.
You know?
They went 5-0 last year and finished 8-8.
But this year has a different feel about it because it's the same staff there now. Same offensive system, same defensive system. That happened last year. It doesn't have the same type of feel like that's the type of thing that they're playing with a different confidence this year. It's kind of like they went and they learned from what happened last year and said, you know what? We're not going to get away from what we did. They tried to get a little cute at times last year and said, okay, let's get, after they had a ton of success to start the year, let's try to do this. Now we're going to implement this. And you start trying to do too much offensively, and it just, clusters everything up, and you end up being worse than you were before. If something's working, just let it keep working until somebody can prove they can stop Julio Jones. You don't need to run the ball 30 times a game. Just throw the ball 50 times a game until somebody proves.
We all know when
Julio.
a wide receiver in the NFL, when he goes and puts up 300 yards receiving, the next game he's going to get double. He ain't going to get nothing.
Yeah, he's not getting that.
He's not even going to be breaking 100 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It never. They said I don't think it ever has been done. 300-yard, wide receiver gets 100 yards last game. The next game.
Yeah.
It never was done. There was never a wide receiver that got 100 yards the next following game. I mean, it's just history. Repeats itself like that.
Yeah. This schedule. This is where we find out. Over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks, we find out how good of a football team we really are.
Right.
You've got Washington, but then you've got Minnesota. And then right after that, I believe you said we have Dallas. Then we're going to have the Giants. And then you get into that Seattle, Cincinnati, Green Bay stretch. And that might be the 3 biggest weeks that, if you lose all 3 of those games, all of a sudden, you're staring, the season in the face.
And then you got to go to another gauntlet, which is your division game.
It's going to be very, very easy.
You got a gauntlet after a gauntlet.
It's going to be very, very easy if you hit a losing streak.
3 division games wins us the division.
If you hit a losing streak at some point over these next 5 to 6 weeks.
Well, if you go 3-3, you split.
it could be very hard to get the season back on track. All of a sudden, you lose 3 in a row in probably the most important stretch of the season, week 8, 9, and 10, and it's going to be very hard to get that focus back and get back to clicking like you were at the beginning of the year when you've got nothing but just harder games coming up, and you're not going to get any fresher. All you're going to do is continue to wear down even more because of how early your bye week was.
I'll tell you what. The first thing is, a lot of people don't realize we only have to go 7-6 the rest of the season to be 10-6 at the end of the season.
10 wins is probably going to, win this division. I would think.
The other thing is, if we lose,
because Dallas has beaten nobody so far.
If we lose to all 3 of those teams in a row, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs because they're all playoff teams.
Right.
So we really have to at least. I would like to win 2. But we have to at least win one of them games.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing with that, because when you looked at the schedule initially, you said, okay, and Atlanta's also in that stretch. Atlanta's like right after that or right before that or whatever. But, you looked at that stretch initially and you said at the beginning of the year, all 3 of those teams are playoff teams. 2 of them probably still are. Seattle definitely still is, especially with the NFC. They could win 10 games this year, still win the NFC West.
You're right.
That's probably how weak the NFC West is.
Arizona stinks. I mean,
Los Angeles is going to be 8-8 at best now, even with their good start. You look at Green Bay; they'll probably still be a playoff team, but they're probably not winning that division no more. They're going to battle for a wild card spot. Cincinnati's the team I look at and say, you know what? Realistically,
time out. Before you go there, you just said that was going to be my poll question that I was going to ask you guys. All right, I was going to say, what team in the NFL out of all 32 teams that are a playoff team?
Yeah.
Do you want to play in the first round of the playoffs? I'm saying Cincinnati. That's mine. Because they're irrelevant the last X amount of years that Marvin Lewis was in the playoffs. They're one and done.
I think we're learning this year, though, that they're not as good. They have not tried to make any improvements, over like the past 4 years. It's been the same team year in and year out, which is fine because they made the playoffs. But at some point, you need to get better. They haven't gotten any better. They've always been limited, and now you're looking at them, and they really look like a limited football team.
Yeah.
I
want to play them in the first round.
They're going to be 2-4. Well, we can't, unfortunately, because we're in the NFC.
I'm just saying, if the Eagles could be in the AFC and play Cincinnati Bengals, I want to play them in the first round. I don't care if I have to throw a game to get to the wild card round and play them. I want to play them.
I look at them, and Cincinnati, for me, they're going to be 2-4 after this. They play New England. They're not going to beat New England. They never show up on primetime games anyway.
Don't have a chance.
So all of a sudden, they're 2-4, and you look at them and you're saying, okay, maybe that's not a playoff team. So if you lose that game, that game could end up looking like an ugly loss when everything is said and done, because they might be a 7-win team at the end of the year.
And Marvin Lewis, he's going to get shit canned.
Well, I thought he should have been fired 4 years. Yeah, I would have fired him after last year when they didn't win a playoff game. I would have fired him after the year before that when they didn't win a playoff game.
He should have been gone last year.
But this has been my Rex Ryan point about why even if the guy goes 8-8, he should keep his job. Yeah. Because look at what's been happening out in Cincinnati. What are the expectations? You got to look at what expectations are in a city for a fan base. In Cincinnati, just going to the playoffs that's been a good thing. Like, they were the laughing stock of football for the longest time. John Kitna was their quarterback, for God's sake. Right. It was terrible. So them just making the playoffs with Carson Palmer initially was progress. Now it's gotten to a point.
Which that first play, the T.J. Houshmandzadeh, he winds up tearing his ACL.
And now it's getting to a point where after 14 years of it and you can't win a playoff game, stuff like that's got to change. But that's why he hasn't gotten fired yet, because to go 9-7 and make the playoffs in a place like Cincinnati, okay, if you're in Pittsburgh and you go 9-7 10 years in a row and you don't win a playoff game, at some point it's going to cost you your job.
You're out the door.
There better be runs, deep runs into the playoffs mixed in there.
Cowher need to win that Super Bowl for him to keep.
Well, it took him 14 years to win a Super Bowl, but he played in the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
He coached them. They lost to the Cowboys in '95.
Right.
How many AFC title games did they go to? They at least won playoff games and made runs into the playoffs. It just took them 14 years to finally win it.
Yep.
But you're going on 15 years as a head coach and haven't won a playoff game. I don't care how many appearances you take a team to. Buddy Ryan got fired after 5 years of that because he couldn't win a damn playoff game. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's getting kind of ridiculous now.
I'll tell you what, guys. I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I just looked at this Eagles schedule.
It is
horrible. So
it's brutal.
This is what I got. Ready? We got the Redskins, and then we got the Vikings coming off their bye, Cowboys coming off their bye, Giants coming off their bye, and then we go into the Falcons.
Falcons
come here.
I'm afraid we get our ass
kicked. We go to
Seattle.
Green Bay comes here. We go to Cincinnati.
That's a brutal stretch.
Then we have the Redskins,
I think we beat
Ravens,
Cincinnati.
Giants, Cowboys.
I really think we beat Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati looks out of those three games. Cincinnati looks like the most appealing 100%.
Matchup. Go to Cincinnati. I think we beat them. I do.
Andy Dalton's another one. You get in his face and get in his chops a little bit.
Yeah.
He's soft. He's so terrible.
The red rifle.
You do look for far as like. Far as the elite wide receivers in the NFL, the Antonio Browns, you saw, he had 114 yards on 12
but that's a solid job against the guy.
No, it is. But they kept him out of the end zone. He wasn't twerking in the Eagles' end zone. You understand what I'm saying?
How about how ridiculous the NFL is?
I know.
They were not
I
going
knew
to
I
let
was
him
gonna
play.
bait him in there.
Yeah, they were not going to let him play because you know how I hate about this stuff.
I was going to bait him into
this
it.
stuff.
I did
The
that.
NFL
I said that for that.
The NFL is not going to let him play because he's got Muhammad Ali tribute cleats on.
Yeah.
So they told him if he doesn't take off those cleats, they weren't going to let him play. Why, NFL? This is what Terrell Owens used to talk about, it being the no-fun league. Why do you have a Sharpie in your sock to sign a football? Because it's fun. Why did Joe Horn put a cell phone in the padding of the uprights? Because it's fun.
Right.
And because y'all want to be haters and kill everybody's fun, you're not allowed to do that. They're getting paid $20 million a year to entertain us.
Right.
You know what I think is entertaining? I think Joe Horn putting a cell phone in the padding of the upright is damn entertaining, and I don't care about the Saints at all unless Joe Horn is taking a cell. Like, we didn't care about the Saints, and Aaron Brooks was their quarterback. This was pre-Drew Brees. We didn't care about them. We only started caring about them because Hurricane Katrina destroyed New Orleans.
You know what, Chris
Drew
Carter?
Brees showed up, and we all felt bad, and we were like, let's hope they do good. It would be good for the city. Before that, they were one of the most irrelevant teams in football.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
100%.
You know what T.O. used to say, and Chris Carter would say this too. If you don't want me to do my antics, keep me out of the end zone.
Well, yeah, and I think at
feel
some
you
point,
understand what I'm saying?
when you're a guy
if you don't want me to carry on and do dances and stuff, keep me out of the
when
end
you're a
zone.
guy like
right?
Terrell Owens,
right?
Makes sense.
like,
Keep me out of the end zone.
And when you're an elite, like receivers especially, because receivers have this mentality. If you're a guy like Terrell Owens and the NFL's telling you, hey, you can't do that celebration, and the only reason they give you is just because we feel it's inappropriate. If you're somebody like Terrell Owens, you're going to be like, sorry, don't care. Let me sign a football with a Sharpie. Let me grab the cheerleaders' pom-poms and start doing a dance.
Shove some popcorn in my face.
Because I'm here to have fun.
I had no issue with it.
You know,
I
but the NFL being the no fun league, let's find. It's just like when they find Casey Hayward, Ironhead Hayward's son, because he had the wrist in peace Ironhead, for his dad that was the longtime Steeler, and he had it on his eye black, and they find him money for it, so they can send it whatever pathetic piece of crap charity they want to send it to, all for their own their own personal agendas, and they're going to sit here and go, oh well, he can't twerk in the end zone. That's inappropriate. We're selling sex. That we can't sell sex. You just sold a 30-second Viagra commercial. Roger Goodell.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't sell sex. How about when the cheerleaders' titties were in my face as we came back from commercial? You're not selling that, and then you panned out the camera all slow, like we're stupid. It didn't know what that was about.
How about like when T.O. when the Cleveland Browns fans in Dog Pound had T.O. has B.O. and he scored 2 touchdowns
and he
starts ripping the sign
That's
down.
phenomenal.
That was great. It was good stuff.
Dare you tell me players can't celebrate?
Yeah.
The best one was Randy Moss
mooning
the
The
Green
in Green
Bay Packers.
Bay Packers
Yeah,
in Lambeau.
that was the best.
Yeah, that
Yes,
was good.
Chad Ochocinco used to have some good ones. Chad Johnson with the dances and
Steve
everything.
Smith,
he used to do.
remember he jumped
had
on
some
the
good ones.
goalpost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad Ochocinco had the goalpost where he did the putt.
Yeah.
That was good
he
stuff.
did bowling. Yeah, there was some good ones.
Didn't he go up there and do the camera too?
Yeah.
He did.
He went up, told the cameraman to get off, and he started.
I'll tell you what, the best one I ever saw. It was a while ago. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was like some boating scandal with the Minnesota Vikings having strippers out in the boat and a couple players, and they got caught by the Coast Guard or something. So Steve Smith scores a touchdown and gets into the end zone and sits down, starts rowing a boat, and then he looks back like the cops are behind him, starts rowing faster. That was hysterical. I
remember
that's
I
pretty
think it was
phenomenal.
Santonio Holmes when he was playing for the Jets and they were playing the Giants. And he acted like he was shooting himself in the leg like Plaxico Burress.
Oh yeah, no,
like
yeah,
Plaxico Burress.
one of them did get in trouble for that. I remember that. Yeah, it might have been Santonio.
Yeah, and they're making a
I
big
knew
deal.
somebody would get in
Another
trouble for that.
thing to comment on you about the NFL.
Yeah.
They're actually fining players now for shooting the arrow.
Well, see, and
That's
that's
crazy.
And that's another part, because here's my thing. Josh Norman got in trouble for doing the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Fletcher Cox goes and hunts wild boar in
Right.
Mississippi in the offseason. His Twitter handle was him holding a dead wild boar that he just slaughtered in Mississippi like last summer. Carson Wentz was hunting geese in a field when he got the phone call that he was going to be the Eagles starter opening week. So Carson Wentz hunts white-tailed deer. He's from North Dakota. He hunts. There's a lot of white-tailed deer hunting that goes on in the Jersey, Pennsylvania area. He goes white-tailed deer hunting. So if he throws a touchdown pass for me, it's completely completely appropriate for him to do the bow and arrow thing because he's a hunter in his free time. So the NFL's going to fine him for that. You can't do that. That's violent. I hunt deer. Like, it was all because that's my hobby. I'm going to do that.
Well, Kenyon Barner, he did the bow and arrow.
Yeah, he did the somersault and the bow and arrow.
His first ever touchdown.
Ridiculous.
But he didn't get fined.
Yeah.
You know. So, but yeah, the NFL, like you said, no fun league. I mean, the ratings are going
Roger
down.
can tell us about this.
But the ratings,
about this, right?
The ratings are going
Yeah, it's all about the
when
money.
when you're a businessman, any good businessman will tell you your customers have to be your number one priority. If you're focused on the greed and the money side of it, and your focus is to make money, you will fail eventually because all you care about is this. And when you care about this and not your customers, eventually the customers go away. That's Roger Goodell. Since he came in, it's been about greed.
And the ratings are going down because of it.
And he didn't think that could happen. He thought the NFL was too big and powerful. No matter what I do, that won't happen. It's going to happen. There's too many other options, too many other sports options in this country
man.
for that not to be the case.
The only game I truly don't think it's ever going to happen was the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, of course, because everybody's going to watch it.
It's like a holiday, bro.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, there's more chicken wings ordered on Super Bowl Sunday than any other day of the year.
Yes, sir.
And it's not even close.
Yeah.
You know? This is the Rundown, A2DRadio.com. I've got some questions about the Eagles-Redskins game. Direct them at Sean, Ralph, and Nick when we come back. This is the Rundown brought to you by Liberty Event Reynolds, 267-314-7368. Go to libertyeventreynolds.com for all your party needs, 2154 East Cambria Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
A2DRadio.com is sponsored by the Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030 or email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com for all your sporting needs. The Sports Outlet.
Hey, do you need to get your skills in shape? Then contact the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. John Scanzano offers individual, semi-private, and team training lessons in hitting, pitching, catching, outfield, along with turf rentals. The Scanzano Sports Center is equipped with a 31,000 square foot indoor facility, 4 batting cages, and a 4,000 square foot strengthening and conditioning room. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Scanzano Sports Center today.
A2DRadio.com is proudly sponsored by Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Tom and Mike from AM and the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's gibsonmayer.com.
You're listening to The Rundown, only on A2DRadio.com.
This is the Rundown, A2DRadio.com, brought to you by the Sports Outlet. For all your sporting needs, go to 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey, 856-939-2030. Email sportsoutletnj@comcast.net. Visit the website sportsoutletinc.com. Some questions on Facebook. John Jacob asking if we think the Eagles win the division. I think the expectations at this point have changed to the point where, yes, they have to win the division. When you start 3-0, expectations are that you are a playoff team. So not being a playoff team
doesn't matter what team you play because they're on their schedule. So really,
once you start 3-0,
right? But there's people, Zach. Let's be honest. There's people like, oh, you haven't played nothing. The Eagles didn't pick their schedule. They didn't pick, okay, we're going to start off the season with the Cleveland Browns.
And I hated people when they said, oh, Carson hasn't played anybody. He's played the Browns and the Bears.
And then you come out and you blow the top off the Steelers.
Did Carson and the Eagles pick the Browns and the Bears the first two games? Now what's the excuse? You beat the Steelers 34-3, so now what's the excuse?
Right.
Oh, it's just the Steelers' defense.
Same guy, John Jacob, wants to know, the Eagles have a lot of cap room next year now that Lane Johnson's $25 million isn't guaranteed. Sam Bradford's going to be off the books. Alshon Jeffrey could be a free agent. Do you make a run at him? That's a very sick wide receiver trio in Alshon Jeffrey, Jordan Matthews, and Dorial Green Beckham. I mean, you could pretty much just line them all up over the
They're going after a receiver next year.
You know,
it's a priority.
I don't know if you if Jordan Matthews has a breakout year, which so far he's having, he's having the early makings of a breakout.
Aguilar, there's only,
I've got Aguilar, but you might need a receiver. But you don't need three guys that can be studs. If Matthews can be a stud, which him and Wentz right now, their chemistry is probably better than it is with any other receiver. He's having the early makings of a breakout year. If Dorial Green Beckham shows a lot of promise, and you say, okay, hey, this kid could be a stud at 6'5",
and you got
on
him,
the outside,
and you got him for a cup of coffee,
and you've got him on the for a cup of coffee, and you've got him on the outside. I'm with making a run at a third receiver, but do you need to go get Alshon Jeffrey, who's probably going to demand the most money out of anybody on the free agent pool? He's going to demand.
Well,
Mohamed Sanu money.
I'm not paying $70 million.
I don't need to pay him Mohamed Sanu money to come in here when we already have Jordan Matthews.
How much he get paid, Mohamed Sanu?
He got paid a pretty.
He got his pay, dude.
He got number one receiver money.
How much?
I think it's in the 60s.
60. I mean, he got number one receiver money.
I think that's too much money.
He's a number one receiver.
He's good, but
when you have Julio Jones, I don't know if I needed to pay that.
Yeah.
If I'm the Lions, I might have gave him that money. You know what I mean? Because they needed a legit number one to replace Calvin Johnson, and instead they just went out and got a bunch of guys that are going to collectively fill in. Anquan Bolden, Marvin Jones, who, remember I said I was worried about Marvin Jones.
And he scored a touchdown.
And Marvin Jones back out in front now. He leads
that was a nice catch.
The NFL in receiving.
That was a great catch.
In receiving yards. He was somebody that was kind
of
I
got DeAndre
hitting
Hopkins
out there in Cincinnati.
On my team.
Drop him, bro. Drop him.
Get out of here. I'm not
dropping
my 7th overall pick.
You got me like
but Brock Osweiler stinks.
Well, me being 5-0 right now, I'm waiting for him to break out. I'm just a matter of time. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to just go off. It's just a matter of time. But his numbers are completely different.
I'll tell you what. This guy said, should we bring Alshon Jeffries? And I say no.
No.
Yeah, I don't think you need him here.
He's going to cost way too much money, and not only that, how many games does he play a year? I think Michael Vick in his prime played more games than Alshon Jeffrey does a year.
But I'll tell you this, Alshon Jeffrey's not staying in Chicago.
Oh, absolutely not.
Jay Cutler's trash.
Jay Cutler's
You guys hear Martellus Bennett ripping the Bears now that he's on the Patriots?
Yeah, but Martellus Bennett rips everybody. He just ripped Jason Witten.
He ripped the Cowboys.
Well, no, he ripped the Bears too.
Well, Jason Witten. He said Jason Witten, he hates
Jason Witten because
he said he hates him.
When he was in Dallas, he said Jason Witten never talked to him, never really gave him any advice. He'd go to Jason Witten for advice on this or that, and Jason Witten just really kept to himself. He hates Jason Witten. But what he's referring to is Martellus Bennett coming out right after he got signed by New England. They had a dual practice, I believe it was, with Chicago or whatever it was in preseason in the training camp. And he called Jay Cutler the worst receiver in the NFL, or the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Wow.
That he could be wide open in Chicago, and Jay Cutler would throw into double coverage to somebody like Brandon Marshall or Alshon Jeffrey while he was wide open. And he called him the worst quarterback in football. And we got to see him firsthand this year. He might arguably be
that's what happens when you give Pretty Boy a lot of money.
He got me 27 points last week.
Who did?
Bennett.
Did he?
I got him as my
you started him? All right, you want to hear bad luck? You know who I played last week? Bad luck. I played Theo Riddick. I also played Bennett. And then I also played...
you got Bennett too?
No, I played against him.
Oh, you
So
played
in
against
about
them.
4 minutes, I was losing like 40-6.
Oh, jeez.
Let's get into some of these Eagles Redskins questions. Top questions coming into the Eagles Redskins game and going forward as far as the rest of the season goes.
All right, let's hear 'em.
Realistically, when you look at the Eagles' remaining schedule, how many games do you think they can win? Can they get to 10 wins?
It's going to be tough, but I say yes. I think they can get to 10 wins.
So
Nick, run down that schedule
let's run
for
down
us,
the schedule.
and let's
Yeah,
go
let
a
me-
win-loss on that schedule.
I got to bring it back up. But, yeah, that's the great idea. I had 10 originally, did not count the Detroit game. But in the beginning of the season, I also had them losing to Cincy. So I think that they will pick up the
That'll
slack,
be a watch.
beat
The beginning of the
Cincinnati,
year,
and
you-
I think they can still
Detroit.
stay 10
Those
6.
three games, the Packers, the Seattle, and Cincinnati, I
Yeah.
think we win the Cincinnati game.
All right, ready? We'll run
At
through
the
'em.
beginning of the year, you had us having how many? You had us having 10 wins.
In the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
No. I had them having 10 wins in
Now-
week 2.
Oh, okay.
Now, with that being
Beginning of the year, actually, to be honest with you, with Bradford, I had us 8-8, and with Wentz, I had us 9-7.
See, I had us at right around 8 wins.
Now,
that
with
was
that,
what-
with
was
that,
where I
with
thought
that
our peak
being
could
said,
be.
with that being said, we all agreed before the season even started that there's one game that the Eagles are supposed to lose, but they win. Is that game behind us right now? Was it the Steelers game, or do we have another one which could be the
I think it's
Seattle
Green
Seahawks?
Bay.
You
I'll
think
tell you what,
it's Green Bay?
I don't think it's close, and I don't think it's pretty, but I think we beat Green Bay like
Okay.
17-14.
I'll say it is the Pittsburgh game because at this point, Pittsburgh comes out the very next week after we blow them
Oh,
out
my God.
and destroys Kansas City.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh still very much looks like a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, Redemption Sunday. is
Green
what Mick
Bay
Tomlin
looks
called it.
a lot worse than we thought they would. Aaron Rodgers in the second half this year has
Yeah.
been one of the worst quarterbacks
what
in
happened?
football.
What
in
happened?
the second half, his numbers have been atrocious.
Colin Coward touched on that, too.
His
I love Colin
numbers
Coward.
have been atrocious.
He's doing well in fantasy. He's doing something right because he's my starting
Yeah,
quarterback.
but he still had. But he, he hasn't put up typical Aaron
I
Rodgers
understand,
numbers.
I understand.
First half numbers, he's been okay, but the second half, he's been a top 3 bad
He's starting
quarterback
to lose
in
his
football.
mojo here, guys.
Yeah,
Well, listen-
they actually said that Fitzpatrick's on top of him as
I've
far as the passer rating.
Jeez, that's
That-
scary.
That's pretty bad.
Now, I said this about. I've always said this about Mike McCarthy. To me, Mike McCarthy has always been a below-average football coach that has got bailed out by having arguably the best quarterback in the league and also a ton of talent around him.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy, for me, when it comes to X's and O's, when it comes to trying to, coach against other teams, he's just not a good football coach. The guy is going to get out-coached more times than not. But when you have Aaron Rodgers, at least, when you had Aaron Rodgers at his peak, a lot of times he got bailed out and they won football games that maybe they got out-coached in because Aaron Rodgers is just so hard to, coach against. How do you put in a game plan that shuts down Aaron Rodgers? It's really hard.
One being that playoff game against the Eagles when Akers missed the two.
The game,
two-
when Michael Vick throws the interception.
they win that. If
Andy
Akers missed them two, Akers make them two kicks. The Eagles
Andy
beat-
out-coaches Mike McCarthy.
And that was
in
the year they
in
won the
that
Super
game.
Bowl.
It was,
Yeah.
and Andy
They beat the
out-coaches Mike
Steelers.
McCarthy there.
Yeah.
But, Aaron Rodgers were just so good at that point that it was really hard to shut him down.
Right.
And when you've got Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, sometimes all you got, it's kind of like when Barry Switzer won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys. Like Barry Switzer, by all intents and purposes, to everybody's account that was ever around him as an NFL coach, terrible, terrible head coach.
Mm-hmm.
When you give him Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and all these guys, he was going to have to do a lot to mess that up, and he almost did. Remember, he was the coach the year that they went for it on fourth and 1 against Philly in their own territory. The time where they stopped them the first time, you had a
Right.
2-minute warning, and then they stopped them again.
Right.
That was Barry Switzer making that
right.
call. That's terrible.
against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Against the Cowboys.
That the next year, whatever, they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So you guys want to go one
Yeah.
for one with this schedule?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Everyone, remember your own wins. Let's see what we can get this team at.
Well, we're already at 3-1, so
Yeah.
3-1. So, yeah, we got that down. But Washington.
Win.
we
Yeah,
win.
that's a bounce back game. We win
We
that
win that
football
game,
game.
So
Yeah.
4-1.
4-1. There you go. Minnesota.
That's a loss.
That's a loss.
3-2.
Okay. Now we have.
You know what? Hold on a second. You know what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You guys are going to say loss. I'm actually going to say the Eagles are going to win heartbreaking fashion. I got to win. I got to play devil's
advocate
yeah,
here?
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
I
I'm going to go with they're going to upset Minnesota, and that's going to be Minnesota Vikings' first loss of the season. Yeah.
See, I could.
I have to go that way.
For me, this is it becomes one of those sour notes of the season. Sam Bradford ends up having a huge day against us and throwing to Diggs and Stephon Diggs.
I think he has below average.
Listen,
I have to play this way.
He's got Stephon Diggs. Until I see anything differently, we're not going to cover Stephon Diggs.
Okay.
He's really made a lot of people look silly early on. We don't have a lockdown. We don't have a corner that's going to one-on-one cover him.
But we have 2 good safeties.
We do have 2 good safeties. I just look at their defense combined with, they win that game 21-17 or something. And Bradford doesn't turn the ball over, and Bradford has a big day throwing the Diggs, and they score 3 touchdowns against our defense and win that football game. That's like one of those sour notes where it's really Sammy Sleeves came back and completely kicked our ass. Oh man, you just look at that at the end of the year.
All right, I'm going with the win. So you guys going?
You got the win.
So I got 4. So hold on. So
I'm 4-2
I gotta
right
write this down.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. The difference maker.
4-2.
The difference maker in that Minnesota game is Kyle Rudolph, the tight end.
Oh yeah,
He's the difference maker.
that's a big boy right there too.
So I got 5 and 2
Because they haven't really played any really
Yeah.
good tight ends so far.
He can block
I
any
got
place
5
in
and
the
2
slot.
right now.
Okay.
Me. You guys got 4 and 2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got 5 and 2.
All right.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on. No, I got 5 and 1.
yeah, you're 5-1.
I'm 5 and 1.
No, yeah.
5 and 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my fault.
okay.
That was my fault.
All right. Up next, in Dallas.
That's a win. I think
Yeah.
think that's a big game coming off a loss. We could take control of the division by beating Dallas there.
5-2.
So we come off a loss against Minnesota and we whip Dallas's ass and take control of the division.
I say loss.
Okay.
I say loss. That's
5-2
gonna
right
be my
now.
Yeah, I
5 and 2.
refuse to pick us to beat Minnesota and then lose to Dallas.
Okay.
That's fraudulent, Mr.
No,
Watson.
they're going to beat Dallas.
You're a fraud.
They're going to beat Dallas on New Year's.
fraudulent.
They beat Dallas on New
Who
Year's.
starts,
Come on,
Dak or Tony Romo?
Dak starts that game, the first game against us, but Dak and Dunk is not beating this team. Would you
Thank
stop
you.
it? Dak and
Thank
Dunk is not
you.
going to beat this team.
Thank you.
Carson Wentz exposes that secondary, throws down the field all game long, and Dak and Dunk continues to just try to throw underneath, and Jim Schwartz
All right, so
kills.
we're all at 5
Jim
and 2.
Schwartz is going to kill Cole Beasley.
We're all at
You're all
5
5 and 2.
We're all
Yep.
at 5 and 2.
There
We're
we
all
go.
at
Mark my words, Cole Beasley gets annihilated in that game. Somebody's going to
right.
separate his head from his shoulders.
We're all at 5 and 2.
Yes. Like Sheldon Brown did to Reggie Bush in the playoffs against the Saints.
First
That's
play
going
of
to
the
happen
game.
to Cole Beasley.
One of the best hits.
It's going to happen to Cole Beasley.
All right. In New York, Giants.
We win. Yeah, we win.
I think we lose that game.
Yeah,
we
that's
win.
for me. That's a tough game. That's I'll have us lose that game.
6 and 2.
We come off a Dallas game that took a lot of energy out of us, and then we play
Right,
another divisional
but you
game
could lose
and-
to New York, and you're still considered the front runner in the division
yeah.
because Dallas is still your top competition at that point.
All right.
5-3 right
So
now.
yeah, we're at 5-3.
Seattle.
That's a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a loss.
5-4.
We're getting
Okay.
spanked that game.
Green Bay comes to Philly.
Win.
See, I think we could get this. We could get the season back on track. That becomes a big game. You lose that game, you're at 5-5. Now you're really staring your season in the face the next week. You come there, you win. All of a sudden, now
6-4.
things all you still look like a favorite in the division. You're 6-4. Your head's above water.
7 and 3.
You got some games to play with. I think we
7
win
and 3.
that game.
I got them at 7 and 3.
Okay.
6-4. We win that game. So we lose that game. You're saying?
No, I'm saying
That's the third
I'm
loss that
saying
you have
we
for-
win that game. We lost the Dallas game.
Yeah,
For
which
me.
would have only been the second loss.
No, I got they lost Dallas, they lost to Detroit, and they lost to
They haven't lost anybody yet.
Yeah, you're right,
So
you're
that
right.
would have been your third loss.
You're
So
right.
if you have as a 7-3, they lose
no,
that game.
no, they win.
So they win. So it's 8-2.
8 and 2.
Yeah, you're crazy.
No,
I like that one the best.
He's
No,
insane.
no, I'm off. Hold on, I'm messing.
Here, we'll rerun. I'll rerun you through.
Yeah,
real quick.
I'm messing up.
All
Hold
right, so let's just start back at 3-1.
Yeah.
Vikings.
No, well you got the Redskins first.
on. Well, I got them.
Or the
beat-
Redskins
I got them,
and then the Vikings. So you have them winning both of those.
They win both of them.
Okay.
5-1.
Yeah, 5 and 1.
Okay, so then
Then they
Dallas.
go to Dallas.
I got them
Yeah,
losing.
so that's 5-2.
Okay.
5 and 2.
Giants. They won.
I got them winning.
Then they went to Seattle. That was a loss.
Ah, man, that's so tough.
Oh, I'm
If you
sorry.
have them winning in
I'm sorry.
Seattle.
I jumped. The Falcons game is actually before Seattle.
So the Falcons game.
Okay.
All right. So go back. All right. So after Minnesota.
All right. They win against Falcons. They lose
All right, hold
against
on.
Seattle.
Let's start it back at Minnesota.
At Minnesota?
All right.
Okay.
So with Washington, I have us beating Washington. We're 4-1. We all have us beating Washington, right?
Yeah.
So 4-1.
4-1.
Minnesota.
Minnesota is a loss. So that's 4-2. You have them beating Minnesota. That's
Yes.
5-1.
Yes.
So
Okay.
now you're at Atlanta.
So no, after Minnesota, you're in Dallas.
In Dallas,
you
that,
win.
we come back with a win,
5-2.
Okay. Then you're in New
And
York.
you have us losing.
I got
that
them
game.
losing.
lose.
I got 'em
So you're at 5-2 now.
5 and 2.
Okay,
Everybody's
and then
5-2.
You're in New York.
We lose.
They
that
win.
game.
So they're
6 and 2.
So you're
5
6
and
and
3,
2.
5-3.
Me and
6
Zach
and
are
2.
5
Yeah.
and 3.
6
Okay.
and 2.
So now we're where we need to
We
be.
go to the Falcons.
The Falcons.
Win.
That's another loss.
That's a win.
That's a win.
They
for
win.
me.
They win in Atlanta. They lose in Seattle. They win. They win at home with Atlanta. They lose
They
in
win.
Seattle.
All right, so you have a loss for Seattle. What do you got for Seattle?
Yeah.
I'm 6-3 right now.
Okay, with the Seattle loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's 6 and 4.
Now we're going.
So you're 6.
Wait, no, you're wrong. No, because you, because listen, 4-1 would be Washington. Then you had to lose to Minnesota. That's 4-2. 5-2 against Dallas. You said they end up losing to New York.
Yeah.
So that's 5-3. Then you have them beating Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right, so that's 6-3. Okay,
Yes.
so I have them losing to Atlanta and losing to. So I've got them at 5-4. You've got them at 6-3, and you've got them at 6-3.
And then they lose to Seattle, which is 6-4.
All right,
Okay.
I have them losing to Seattle. That's a 3-game losing streak.
They're 6-3 after
This
Seattle.
is so dysfunctional.
Listen, dude. They're for me. They're 6-3 after Seattle.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
I have them
6-3.
losing Seattle. They lose 3 in a row. They're 5-5 for me coming out of that Seattle game, staring the season in the face the next week against Green Bay.
Green Bay.
So now they come back to Green Bay, staring the season in the face, and they win Green Bay.
So they lose to Seattle. Okay, I got them.
I got them winning against Green Bay at home.
Okay.
So
I
seven,
think-
I got them
I think
7.
Aaron
I got
Rodgers-
them 7-3 after Green Bay.
Yeah.
They're 7.
For
Sounds
me, they're
good.
6-5 after the Green Bay
Okay.
game, and that's kind of the game that was the game where if you lose to Green Bay, you can nosedive. You beat Green Bay, you get everything going steady again. They beat Green Bay, they end the 3-game losing streak. They're back to 6-5.
So you have him at 6-5.
Yeah, coming out of Green Bay.
Okay. So you have him at, if he has him at 6, you have him at 8-3.
No,
right?
7-3.
7-3.
7-3 because we had the
6-5,
bye week.
that
'cause
would-
we had the bye week.
Yeah, but you're off by a game.
Yeah, you're off by a game. You would have him at 8-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 8-3, dude.
Because he has him 6-5. He has him 6. You have him 6-5.
Yep.
So you're 8-3.
8-3. All right. 8-3.
All right. So after that, we go to Cincinnati.
From
Win.
Green Bay, yeah.
Win.
That's why
That's a win.
that Green Bay game for me becomes a huge game. We win that game. That gives us the
9-3.
momentum. That gives us the
Nice.
momentum to
If-
go to Cincinnati
If you remember,
and beat Cincinnati.
If you remember a couple years ago, the Eagles, I believe, were 9-3, and then they nosedived
Yeah.
the last 4
Yep.
games of the season.
I think you're crazy having them at 9-3 at that point in the schedule.
Washington. Home.
All right, so
Eagles home.
So we have them. I have them beating Cincinnati to get them to 7-5, coming off the momentum.
I
from the
think
Green
they
Bay
lose
game.
to Washington at home.
So and you have them at 7-5 because they beat Cincinnati.
Then they come, and then Washington comes to Philly, and they beat us in Philly. We go 7-6.
See, I'm off because I think they're going to be around the margin of. I actually think that they could possibly get 11. I do. I honest to God, I'm not just saying. You don't say? You don't,
I don't see that.
You don't think they can get to
No,
11?
there's too many. Dude, playing 13 straight weeks of football with this many tough games, it's unrealistic to see 11
So what do
wins.
you have him at,
I
Ralph?
think-
Bet
7
you
and 6?
worn down by
They'll
the end of
never
the year.
get to 12. But I,
Yeah.
You're going to
I'm
play a
saying-
lot of tough football games. I think we can be competitive in every football game, but to play 13 straight weeks of football against this tough of a second half schedule and think we're going to get to 11 wins for me is just a little bit.
I think 10 is the max.
Yeah, it's,
All right,
it's
so
crazy.
Washington.
I have us beating Washington, so that now you're back to a
I got us
three-game
going.
winning streak.
How about this? I got us going 3-3 in the division.
3-3.
We're split.
Okay.
So I'm 8-5 now coming out of Washington. What's the next week after that?
Next week is in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
That's a win.
Yeah, that's a big game. That's a big game.
That's tough to win
That's
that
a big
stadium,
game.
dude.
That's a big game for Baltimore though too, because Baltimore's going to be right there in the wild card picture in the AFC.
It's going to be a great game.
Really needing a win. We could
I'm
really hurt
8-6.
their playoff chances just because I want to stick on this Bills theory that they could have a chance to sneak in the side door in a wild card. I'll have us beating the Ravens because it helps the Bills. We beat the Ravens. That helps the Bills.
Okay.
Bottom line, I got the Eagles currently right now, depending on. I mean, they should have won last week, but I got them going 11-5 right now.
Okay.
So that would be
So
9-5.
however you want to slice
That
it.
would be 9-5 on my part. You kind of, you kind of look in the mirror after the 3 in a row, and you're 5-5, and you say, "This is our season." You come out the gate, you win 4 in a row, you get the season back to 9-5.
Okay, then you have New York.
That's, I think, a loss. Now you're at 9-6,
And then
What do you-
Dallas.
and then you go to Dallas, and that could ultimately
you're
decide the
game-
division.
home.
That game-
in New Year's, you're
Well,
home.
yeah, you're
That
against Dallas.
game,
That
the
could
last
ultimately
game of the
decide the
season,
division.
Mark it down. That's going to be the division.
You could
game.
ultimately
Whoever wins
decide that
wins.
decides
Win-
the
win
division.
and you're in?
We
Win and
win.
you're
We
in.
win against the Cowboys. Gets to 10-6, and that's
Now
who
I
wins the
got
division.
a good question for you guys. Are there 2 playoff teams coming out of the NFC East?
No.
No. Okay.
You're winning in.
No.
You're win.
Okay.
9 wins is not going to be enough in the NFC to get a wild card
Whoever
spot.
gets 10 wins in this division wins the division. It's going to come down to between the
'Cause
Eagles and Dallas.
At first, when the Giants were starting off red hot,
Yeah.
I thought the Giants were going to be one of them teams that could possibly
because this is the way I look
be
at
a
it.
playoff team?
This is the way I look at it. You're going to have one wild card team coming from the north and one's going to come from the south. The Falcons and the Saints are. You're going to have at least. There's 4 teams in the south. None of them are out of it. The Panthers could make a run. You've got the Bucks that could still make a run. Realistically, I think it's the Falcons and the Saints.
It's going to be tough.
Well, the Panthers need to win this. If the Panthers win this week, they're staring their season in the face.
If they
this
lose,
week.
what are they going to be?
1-5.
Whoa,
they're staring their season in the face this week.
Yo, if the
me,
Panthers lose, they're out.
Yeah, for me, I look at it as the Falcons and the Saints make the playoffs in the South. The Vikings and the Packers make the playoffs in the North. So there's your wild card team. That means you've got the division winner in the West makes the playoffs. You've got the division winner in the East making the playoffs.
But
the wild card teams come from the other two
Eagles.
divisions.
All right, just say the Eagles should say we lose the division, but we sneak in as a wild card. Now you have to play a wild card game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What team would you like? What team in the playoffs are you fearing? Honest to God.
In the NFC?
Are you fearing to go to Seattle? Are you fearing to,
I'm fearing Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
All right, so
No, I don't fear Minnesota because Bradford's not good enough to win them a Super Bowl. I think they're good
But that
enough.
defense is.
Yeah, but Bradford's not. And, even
How
when
about
you
what-
when you
what
have
team,
an
what
elite
team in the
defense-
playoffs for the NFC are you really fearing to play if you're going? We're saying the Eagles don't win the division or the Eagles don't get the first round bye. They have to go on the road to say they're a 6 seed.
if Seattle's
the Eagles
there-
are a 6 seed.
Okay.
All right, they're a 6
If
seed.
Seattle's
they just get
there
in.
and you've got to go to Seattle, I think that's your worst case scenario. That
Okay.
place is a
I'll
hellhole.
tell you what, in the beginning of the
That place is a
season-
hellhole to play on the road.
In the beginning of the season, I thought we were going to end up going in a wild card and playing one team in Arizona. I thought we were going to end up playing the Cardinals in Arizona.
Yeah.
And that was the team that I was afraid of. Now, I mean, it could be we could lose in Seattle and then have to go back to Seattle and try to win, just like you said.
And the pressure, and if you think that game is going to be tough in the regular season, that's an even tougher game in the postseason.
Imagine it in the postseason.
That place is rabid.
And it's going to be
that's
it's going
the
to be
loudest
pouring
environment
too.
in football.
It's going to be pouring in January.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be nice.
not gonna be a- it's
either
gonna be
it's
sloppy
going to be
game.
cold and chilly. If you're lucky, it won't be raining. If you're extremely unlucky, it could even be snowing. You know what I mean? Because it's Seattle, and you never know what you're going to get. But expect it to be 45 degrees and just unpleasant.
Carson Wentz can play in that though. North Dakota isn't the warmest place.
But I'm sure he's never played in an environment. He's going to go to Seattle in the regular season
And be like,
and
holy
he's going
God.
to be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this place. This place is an absolute hellhole. Hey, I don't know how you come here and focus. I mean, this place is just loud.
If you thought like last week, and let's go back to Jason Kelsey. Last week, you had 2 delayed games. All right.
Yeah.
One of them was Carson Wentz's fault. He wasn't paying attention to the clock. The second one was on Jason Kelsey, and they actually said that what's his name? 79. Brooks. Brooks actually had to hit Jason Kelsey. He had to go and tap him. Like, bro, he's calling for it. You know what I mean? Because it's so loud, and he.
Well, that if you watch football around the NFL, that's every team's kind of going to that. The guards slapping that.
Where did
center
it
on
start?
the
It
thigh.
started with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. I think.
It started on the silent. It started on silent counts, which really it's been around forever because like Denver did it in the playoffs the whole year the year they won the Super Bowl against Green Bay.
Yeah.
Way back in '98 with Elway, they had to play Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh that playoff year. They had to play Kansas City at Kansas City, which, speaking of hellholes, Kansas City is just rabid and loud. And then they had to play Jacksonville at Jacksonville. So they went silent count the entire playoffs that year. And, whenever you were going silent count, that was a thing. But, Peyton, I guess, brought it to prominence because they went no huddle, consistently. That was their offense, so they would go silent counts at time, and that would be their way of communicating. But I've seen that around football, with every team now. It seems like instead of maybe having, it's really on the right guard's tap of the thigh and the clap of the hands, not on whenever the quarterback says. It's when the right guard gives you the tap, and when
you're
the clap.
when you're in domes, they're loud on third down or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually hard to hear. I mean, it really is. But you got to pay attention to clock.
Let's get into your spreads.
What I do is I go down the spreads, and then we just go and we figure, okay, who's going to win this game? Go straight down.
Okay.
And it's hard to go against the spread, but it's fun.
We don't have to do every game, but get the good games in there. You know what I mean?
All right, we got to go Dallas.
Yeah,
and
some
Green
of the
Bay.
games are irrelevant, and who's
Dallas
really
and
gonna
Green Bay
care.
at Lambeau Field at the frozen tundra. The Dallas Cowboys are getting 4 points.
The Dallas Cowboys are getting 4 points.
Yes. At the frozen tundra.
I think Green Bay wins that game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's by a field goal. If Dallas is getting 4, that's
so
a
Dallas,
really tough
you're
line.
saying Dallas covers?
That seems like a game that's like. That seems like a game that Vegas is screaming for you to pick Dallas to cover the spread. So I'll actually take Green Bay by a touchdown.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. Green Bay by a touchdown.
Green Bay by a touchdown?
Yeah.
So does Aaron Rodgers play a lot better this week?
Yeah.
He needs to, man.
Dallas's
He's just
defense,
been looking. It's not bad. He hasn't been looking bad.
Yeah,
he's been
he
looking
just hasn't
weird.
looked like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
you know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
used to it.
Yeah,
I'm not used to it.
When statistically coming into the year, statistically,
That could
he
be-
was the best
yeah,
quarterback
that
in
could-
football.
Yeah, but that could
and
be
he doesn't
scary.
look himself.
If he's not looking at himself now, wait until he gets this shit together.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is
I hope
scary.
you don't get it together against the Eagles, but
Oh, great point.
I'm just saying,
Well,
if he's
that's-
not getting it
That's
together
the-
now,
and that's the other thing you got to worry about with the NFC. The Packers haven't hit their stride yet. The Seahawks haven't hit their stride
Yeah.
yet. You get to the playoffs playing them, and they've all hit their stride. Really, the only team in the NFC that hit their stride early was the Vikings.
you're right.
You know?
Yep.
So you get Green Bay hitting their stride and Seattle hitting their stride. I remember I said this 2 weeks ago. I'd rather play Seattle 2 weeks ago than play them when we end up playing them in the schedule. By the time we play them, I feel like they've got all their shit together.
Aaron Rodgers at his worst, which is right now, that's probably
He's
the worst.
better,
ever.
yeah. He's still a top
He's
5
better.
quarterback.
He's better than like 15 starting quarterbacks.
100%.
It's kind of it's kind of the argument that's being had about Andrew Luck right now. And they're Andrew Luck, like he's getting destroyed because he has no offensive line. Yet I'd still take him over like 25 other quarterbacks in this
I'm going to
league.
be honest with you. I'm not taking Andrew Luck right now since we have.
He's
Carson
got no
Wentz.
help.
I know, but
And did you hear the idiot of a general manager, Grigson? Speaking of dumbasses, this dumbass comes out and says, well, because of the money we paid him in this contract extension, it's really hindered our ability to go out and get more talent to go around him. Well, that's your fault then, knucklehead. You're the one that runs the salary cap, Mr. General Manager. By the way, Grigson is from the Andy Reid tree. He was in the front office here when Andy Reid was here in Philly. So he goes there, he gives Andrew Luck all that money, and his excuse for why they can't be competitive with arguably one of the best quarterbacks in football is because they didn't have the money to give him a better offensive line and a better defense. How about the fact that he's been there since 2012 when he drafted Andrew Luck? I'm sorry. Who have they drafted that has come in and made an impact in that time? T.Y. Hilton? I don't need to hear anything about how much salary cap you don't have because good football teams do good drafts and bring in talent in the draft that improves your football team. Every good football team wins through the draft. The only player they've gotten through the draft that's been impactful for them, Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. Other than that, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
That's on him.
You're 100% right.
how about Baltimore Ravens versus the New York Giants? Baltimore's getting 3.
Baltimore against the Giants. I'll take the Giants in that game.
I'll take Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm taking Baltimore.
Baltimore's getting 3, you said?
Baltimore is getting 3.
And that game is where?
Oh, that's a good question. I do not know.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
I'll take the Giants outright. See, even if that game's in Baltimore, it's not much of a road game if you're New York. You're right down the turnpike.
I'm assuming it's in New York. If they're getting 3, I mean,
You know, I would. I find it hard to
the
believe.
Giants ain't no juggernaut.
Yeah, Baltimore, and Baltimore's not either. Baltimore's not a good enough team for them to go.
It's in New York.
For them to go to New York, and New York,
Right.
you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
Like New York would not There's no that game has to be in New
Yeah.
York. For New York is getting 3. You
So
said
you're taking New York?
I'll take New York. Yeah, all day. They win that game outright.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Baltimore.
Until Baltimore
Yeah, I'm
proves they
taking
can move
Baltimore,
the
too.
football. Listen, some of the Giants off-season moves have been overrated, but like, who is Joe Flacco going to throw the football down the field? Or they scored 13 points against the Bills. They couldn't move the football 10 yards to get Justin Tucker in the field goal range 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. For God's
My
sakes,
kicker.
you know what I mean? All they need to do is move the ball 10 yards on the final drive and give Justin Tucker a chance at a 55-yard field goal to win the game against the Raiders' 32nd ranked defense. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They can't move
And
the
they
football.
just fired their offensive coordinator.
They
last
did.
week.
Marty, and guess who? Here's a flashback name from the past. Guess who their new offensive coordinator is? Marty Morningway.
Oh, yeah. I heard that. Yeah.
How is this guy still in the league?
Yeah.
Are we serious? You know why that? Because John Harbaugh's there. There's that connection. That's simple. You put 2 and 2 together there. John Harbaugh's the head coach. Marty Morningweg. They coached together in Philly.
Ready? Ready for this? Atlanta versus Seattle. Atlanta's getting 6 points.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Atlanta wins that game
Outright?
outright.
Okay.
Outright in Seattle.
My guy always tells me, hey, Sean, if you ever put in a bet, he goes, getting 6 points, you're getting 7 points, you're getting 10 points, and you think the team that's getting the points can win the game outright, you better take that team that's getting the points.
Oh, and that's a perfect theory.
That is the bookie, the Las Vegas mind.
Well, that's my
Right
thought
there.
process with this. Are the Seahawks a good team? Yeah. Are the Falcons a good team? Yeah, at least for all intents and purposes of what we've seen, yes. The Seahawks are not a good enough team to be a 6-point favorite. I don't care if it's at home or where it is. For them to be getting 6 points over the Falcons, that's too much. The Falcons win that football game.
Okay.
Yeah.
They go there, they win that football game outright, they're for real. This is a game like Atlanta beats Denver, right? I called that game outright last week, right?
What's that?
Atlanta at Denver. I called that game outright, saying Atlanta was going to win that game.
Thursday night.
Sunday afternoon or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I said they're going to win that game.
I'm all messed up because of last night's game.
Some people came out of that game and said, oh, Atlanta's for real, but you still haven't really heard a ton about it. It was just, okay, good win for them. They go to Seattle on back-to-back weeks and beat Seattle, another West Coast team, an NFC rival, an NFC juggernaut. All of a sudden, they are opening people's eyes around the league. Okay, look out for Atlanta. That's a really, that's a big test for them. I think you find out what they're made of. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they win the game.
Indianapolis Colts getting 3 points versus Houston Texans.
These are two bad football teams. This might be the worst division in football.
Coin toss?
The AFC South is terrible.
I'll take Indy.
I'll take Indy just because Brock Osweiler stinks.
And no J.J. Watt.
Any quarterback.
He might retire.
Any quarterback.
Yeah,
that goes,
where did what's up with what's his name? The number 1 overall pick, Clowney.
He's actually had a little bit of. He's had an underrated. He's been under the radar to have a pretty. Not a phenomenal year, but he's had a good year under the radar. Nobody's really paying attention.
How about the
to
under and
defense.
over for that game? It's 46 is under and 50 is over.
Dude, that might be a 21-17 football game.
Yeah,
a
I'm taking
17
the under.
football.
So you're saying under.
Oh, under.
That Houston's
Under,
defense is
100%.
still good, and
So would you actually circle that under on the pool?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Under
Under all day? Yeah.
Houston's defense. The only reason Houston's 3-2 is because of their defense. Brock Osweiler's played. Whenever he's played, they got their asses kicked by Jacoby Brissett in New England, and Brock Osweiler looked like dog shit in that game. Okay.
How about the under and over for Eagles and Redskins? Under is 44, over is 48.
He looked like Brock, who was the old quarterback from back in the 90s, Brock Heward or whatever. Remember the career backup, the journeyman. Brock Heward, I think his name was. Played for the Chiefs, played for a bunch of teams. Brock Osweiler looks like Brock Heward right now. Terrible.
So you're going to go under the Eagles 44 or over 48?
Over. That's a
See that window
That's
right
a
there?
high,
You see
I
that
don't
window?
know.
The 44-48, the
4-point
4-point margin?
It's 44.
It's somewhere
the
around
under's
that range.
44 and 48.
I'm going over.
I'll say over.
I could see a
over.
24-21 win, and that's like right in between. I mean, that's such. Yeah, I'll have to go over just because I don't think it's under that.
So you're going to say it's going to be 49 or more?
Yeah, I don't think
it has to be 49
I don't
or
think
more.
it's a high-scoring game, but 28-21, something like that, I could see.
I'm seeing it like in the middle, though, honestly.
Yeah,
like
I
a
agree.
30-17.
That's
Yeah,
why
you
it's
know.
like a 30-17
That's why
game.
they had that margin so close. It's a little window.
I don't
it's
score
only
with-
it's only a 4-point margin.
I don't think we score 30 points. I think we could run the football against them.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Breland being out, it gives us the ability to really have mismatches. Wherever Norman is, you can
Breland sucks
wherever-
anyway.
Well, Breland's had a bad year, but wherever Norman is, you can just get a mismatch anywhere else.
Yeah.
Whether it's Matthews, DGB, Ertz, doesn't matter. You just keep Norman away from your best receiver. Wherever he lines up, you put whoever you feel like your best receiver is to get a mismatch on that play on the other side, and you still have an ability to exploit them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Norman's really their only guy in the defensive backfield that's going to give them a chance to shut down us offensively a little bit. We'll run the football against them. We'll exploit the other side of their secondary. And Norman, even if he has a good game, is not going to be enough to keep us from scoring enough points to beat them.
How about taking the Jets with 8 over Arizona?
I'll take the Jets in that football
Yeah.
game. First of all, that's way too many points no matter what.
And
Think about that.
It has to be in Arizona.
Even if Arizona wins that game, I don't see them winning that game by more than 8 points.
Yeah.
The Jets are due to snap out of this. I could see the Jets winning that game outright and Arizona
That's
going
Monday
into a
Night Football.
tailspin.
How about Cincinnati getting 10 over New England?
Yes.
That's kind of screaming. That's screaming though right now. They're like almost telling you to take Cincinnati.
I don't think so.
No?
I think
You it's gonna be-
what that line tells you. First of all, you saw the way Brady played last week.
Now
He was
where's that game?
possessed.
Well, where's that game? Has
I
to
don't
be-
really think it matters.
It
in all
has to be
honesty.
in Cincinnati.
It's probably.
It has-
I don't. It probably in New England if New England's favored by 10.
Yeah, but New England is. I don't know, man.
New England being favored, it could be in either place, but I really that's a huge line if it's in Cincinnati. I think that game would be in New England.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah, but let me tell you this.
But I don't think
that says two things.
But what's called just got blown the top off by the Cowboys.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I think that game's probably in New England. It would be more like a touchdown line if it was in Cincinnati. 6.5, 7. I don't think it's going to be 10. That tells me it's in New England because what that tells you. Remember, Cleveland was in New England last.
So you think?
Remember, New England went to Cleveland last week. It was 10-point favorites. They're not going to go to Cincinnati and be 10-point favorites.
Do you think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? Do you think they're going to collaborate and they're going to?
Oh, they roll in this game.
Roll them.
Yeah, this is why. What
do you think?
Cincinnati is an average football team. Cincinnati wins 8 games if they're lucky this year, and they probably don't even win that. This is Cincinnati's year to take a step back.
And Marvin Lewis is going to
gets the can.
Finally, this is finally their year to take a step back and not go 9-7 and sneak into the playoffs.
Who do you think is going to get that job?
Anybody? At this point, who knows?
Yo, you want to know who? You want to know who I think slides in there? I hate to say this. Jim Schwartz. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see him going in. I actually think
it's gonna.
This is why I think Jim leaves after this year and takes a head. Because when you look at the head coaching jobs that'll be available, San Diego, you've got a franchise quarterback. What's his name? Phillip Rivers is there.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, Andrew Luck's there. Terrible defense. Jim Schwartz comes in there and says, wow, all I got to do is make that defense a top 12 to 15 defense, and we could be a Super Bowl contender. Cincinnati, he looks at them and says, A.J. Green, even if we got a game manager and Andy Dalton, if I make that defense a top 3 defense in football, we can win games. Jacksonville, he probably looks at Blake Bortles, says the same thing. Blake Bortles, we could win with him. If I bring a top defense in there, already a lot of young talent, that's an appealing job.
That's the most appealing.
What, you think Jacksonville?
Yeah.
I disagree completely. I think Indianapolis is the most appealing
You
job.
said that last week.
Yeah, I think when you look at Andrew Luck being there and all he thinks he has to do is come in there and improve that defense a little bit, and no matter where he's been, he's always had a good defense. Mm-hmm. He could come in there, turn that defense into a top 13 defense. They're 13th or 14th best in football next year. They win 12 games again.
I just think Jacksonville has the better pieces if he wants to win now.
But they don't have none of them been able to prove that they know how to win. And when you have a bunch of young talent that has no idea how to win, how good is the talent? They have to have an idea.
I hear what you're saying.
They have to believe that they can win. And to this point, they don't believe in that. But the job that I think is going to sneak in under the radar, that he could take over all of them, even if he was offered all of those jobs, is the Titans job. Because where did he spend the majority of his career? He spent the first 10 years under Jeff Fisher in Tennessee as the defensive coordinator. He's familiar with the city, familiar with the franchise. Marcus Mariota's there. It's not like, you still look at him and say, young quarterback could be a franchise guy. I come in there. I know how to coach there. Loved coaching there. I make that defense talented, make that defense top 10. If I can win with them, that's why I want to win anyway, because that's why I spent all my time coming up as a top assistant. But realistically, he could take any of the jobs.
Ready? Miami Dolphins versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Miami's getting 8.
Miami could keep that job.
I think they're going to keep it closer. I think they're going to keep it close.
But Miami is – listen, Adam Gase, I think, is 100% overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I think he has zero clue. See, remember when I talked about with Doug Peterson?
At first, you wanted him. At first.
I wanted nothing to do with Adam Gase. Remember I said –
No, you wanted what's his name from Cleveland.
Hugh Jackson.
Well, I said I would take Hugh over a guy like Gase or Doug because I wanted a guy with at least experience.
Yeah, you said
I wanted nothing to do with a new guy coming in here with no experience.
Well, we wanted Lovie Smith.
I did want Lovie Smith, and you guys were on board with that.
Yeah.
The thing this is my concern about Doug when we first talked about it is new head coaches, you don't know what you're going to get. Adam Gase was the top name on the market this offseason, the top young offensive coordinator. Everybody wanted him. He comes in there completely overwhelmed, no clue what he's doing. It's a bad football team. Just overwhelmed. And that's,
so are they going to keep it? I think they're going to keep it close with the Steelers.
They could keep it close, but they lose that football game.
But I'm saying if you're going to go with the point spread, I'm taking my – I'm not going to pick the game on my pool, but I'm just saying if I was going to pick the game and someone held a gun to my head, I'm picking
Pittsburgh
Miami
with the –
So they cover. They cover with the 8.
Yeah.
By 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to all right, Cleveland and Tennessee. You're going to go and say that you think Cleveland's going to cover?
I think Cleveland gets their first win.
Wow.
Outright. Cleveland outright gets their first win. Tennessee's an average football team.
That's crazy.
Tenessee's an average football team.
I know, but I can never pick Cleveland for anything.
Yeah, but think about it. But Cleveland's not going to go 0-16. they're already, 0-4,
Well, there's only been
0-5.
one team in the history.
Right, so that's what I'm saying.
And by the way,
so you look at their schedule.
By the way, Lions fans were kept on telling me, scoreboard, buddy, scoreboard. I said, that's okay, scoreboard. I said, at least my team never went 0-16.
You know, like this is one of those games on the schedule. If I'm looking at the schedule and I say, okay, where does Cleveland steal a win? They're 0-5, 0-4. They're not going to go, 0-16. Where do they steal a win? This could be a game they steal a win and get their first win. They've been playing hard. I actually think this is one of the games Hugh Jackson could outcoach Tennessee.
I thought they were going to win.
Malarkey stinks.
You know what?
Malarkey.
After that whole fumble with Duke Johnson and he came out with a pile of the ball, that was a game changer because they were on actually the 15-yard line of
think about this.
Redskins.
I think they were getting ready to score.
But think about this. Cleveland's had the lead in the second half of every football game they've played this year besides the New England game. They led against us week 1 in the second half.
Right.
They led the next week against Baltimore. They led against the Redskins. At some point,
they were blowing out Baltimore. They were winning
20-0. That's a young football team that plays with a lot of heart that just really is just not ready to win or compete because they're so young. But they play hard. At some point they're going to figure out how to close out a game. They've been right there in a lot of these games. Once they figure out how to close it out, that they could win a few games.
Right.
Tennessee's an average team.
Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Oakland Raiders, -2.
I'll take Oakland.
Oakland?
Outright. Kansas City, I was listening to Colin Cowherd the other day. He still thinks Kansas City's a playoff team.
Who you want, Oakland or Kansas City?
I think Kansas City.
-2.
Kansas City for me is overrated.
Oakland.
Thank you. Kansas. What is so sexy about Kansas City? Like Kansas City's 2-3, 3-2. I mean, they got lucky against San Diego. San Diego can't hold
Travis
a lead.
Kelce.
San Diego can't hold a lead to save their ass. They almost blew another one against Denver
Jamal
last
Charles
night.
is losing his mojo.
Alex Smith is above average. That defense is vanilla. They're a they're a well-coached team, but this is the same thing we see they'll beat teams they're supposed to beat. They won't beat teams that are better than them.
Speaking of teams,
they're
like
an
Cincinnati
8-8 football team.
I think they're very similar to Cincinnati.
They might be a little bit better.
Jacksonville
Just 'cause they're better coached.
Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Chicago Bears, -2.
Two bad football teams. What the hell? I'll take Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Now I'm taking Chicago with Brian
This is one of the games I didn't want you to take.
I'm taking Chicago.
Why are you having us pick this game?
I got one more left and we're done. This last game.
Ridiculous.
Ready? Los Angeles versus Detroit.
Detroit wins that game. Los Angeles
got 4.
Detroit's winning that.
I'm really hoping that I had a conspiracy theory last week, Nick, that the NFL wants the Rams to be good and be competitive this year because it would be good for football.
Absolutely.
From a marketing
Absolutely.
perspective, it would be
No doubt
good
about
for
it.
football if LA had a competitive football team. And last week was the game I was like, listen, if they find a way to beat the Bills in this game with Case Keenum and the Bills defense, the league wants the Rams to be good. And it wasn't even really close. The Bills dominated for most of the game, 130-19. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of coming off that conspiracy theory a little bit. Maybe not so much. I still think they would like the team to be good.
Told Zach,
absolutely.
I told Zach when he said conspiracy, like when he's bringing that whole up, like kind of like the X-Files or whatever, we need to have music for that. Every time he says
like
that.
some sort of dun-dun,
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
CSI
dun,
sounding
dun,
thing.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
You think that?
dun.
Wait till we see how good the Las Vegas Raiders do next year.
Well, that's, here's the funny thing about that, because I think they're going to stink. If we're going to go with this theory, they'll stink, because the NFL has never wanted a team in Vegas, and to this day still doesn't. But at the end of the day, they really don't have a lot of say if the owner of the Raiders, Mark Davis, can come up with agreement that's, the proper, because you're seeing it right now. The NFL just made it. Did you see this report 2 days ago? The NFL just came out and said, right now, they would not approve this deal that Mark Davis has been discussing with Las Vegas and the city of Las Vegas because they are not a fan of the revenue sharing that's going to go on with this deal. Well, of course you're not, because, you don't want a team in Vegas. If this was Los Angeles or if this was London, the revenue sharing's not a problem. It's London because we want a team in London. But they're going to find every way to try to keep this from happening.
It's going to.
But Mark Davis, just like his old man, is a stubborn bastard, right? And he's a hard-headed guy. He's not going to, whatever. The NFL doesn't want me to go to Vegas, even more of a reason for me to go there. He'll make a deal. They'll figure out a way to make it work. I was just there this past spring. This past summer. Vegas would love it to happen. Vegas is going to have the NHL team. The Raiders would be the perfect way to come in there and really solidify them as a sports city. It is the biggest market in the United States without a Big Four professional sports franchise. It's going to happen. I just don't think the NFL is going to like it.
It'll happen.
Where's going to San Diego? San Diego can't beat San Diego anymore.
What's that?
San Diego.
Well, they probably won't get a stadium, but if anything,
there's more opponents. There's more other team opponents fans are going to San Diego Chargers than actually.
Yeah, if anything, San Diego ends up being the team that moves to London, or they somehow move them to the second team of Los Angeles. I could really think they become the second team of Los Angeles.
I think they'll fail if they put 2 teams in LA.
Well, I think they might fail no matter what.
I
Listen,
just can't see. LA's not big enough to have
25
No, LA's absolutely big enough.
25 years from now, do they go back to St. Louis?
I don't know. I doubt it. If New York's
every team leaves.
If New York's big enough to host 2 teams, then LA is, because LA is the only other bigger market than New York. But here's why I think it'll fail, because New York has always been a better sports city than LA. New York can have 2 teams, good sports city. LA is a front-runner sports city. Jack Nicholson, people like that, the famous people that come out to who's at the Lakers games? If the Lakers stink, nobody's there. Even Jack Nicholson doesn't come, and he has season tickets. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the Lakers are good, Jack Nicholson will be there. All the celebrities will be there.
Jay-Z.
You might have the celebrities here at the LA football games. But when it comes down to LA as a sports city, LA is not a sports city. It's an entertainment city. It's an outsider city. How many people in LA are actually from LA, born and raised in the area? Very few. It's a city where everybody comes from somewhere else in the country to come to LA and work. You're not going to become a Rams fan in LA just because you came from Philadelphia, and now you live in L.A., that's not going to make you an L.A. Rams fan, especially because it's the Rams. Who gives a damn? And if you're from L.A., you're still a Raiders fan because going back in the day, the Raiders were the more popular team in L.A. So if you grew up in the 80s, a football fan in L.A., to this day, you're still a Raiders fan even though they moved to Oakland. And the Rams, for me, won't work there long term is the way the NFL wants them to work. They'll sell out stadiums and make the money because it's L.A. How could you not? But they're not going to be – it's not going to be a football haven. It's not going to be some place where you look at it and say, oh, wow. Like that new megaplex of a stadium that they built there, that could end up being just as much of an eyesore as the Miami Marlins Stadium. Like, nobody's going to go there.
Are we going to do the pissed off roundtable?
No, we're going to move on to Ralph's Facebook posts of the week. And maybe, we can get some pissed off, if one of these posts pisses you off, you can we can go off about it and turn it into a pissed off
all I saw the whole time was Austin Matthews. I saw him post about Austin
4 goals.
All right, here we go. We'll start with this one. Since you want to have a pissed off roundtable,
here we go.
We'll start with this one. Damn it. Ralph has high hopes on this Flyers team this year, apparently.
Yes, I do.
Don't let me down.
You're crazy.
Now, jeez. Look, the biggest Flyers fan in the room even says he's crazy. Now, I'll let Sean get into this in a minute with you. But all of it.
Are they a playoff team? They could make the playoffs, but let's be honest.
They're a 7 seed again.
They're
a 6 seed.
They're 5 years away from being like actual, Stanley Cup contender. They're 5 years away.
What gives you this false hope? Because Konecny and Provorov are now here. There's going to be Don't they both play defense?
No. Konecny plays forward.
Forward, and Provorov's a defenseman, right?
What is
Konecny going to be Austin Matthews?
Oh, he's going to be the next Austin Matthews.
Oh, gosh. Here we go.
All right,
What is his name? Travis Konecny?
Yeah.
All right, well, give us the reasons why the Flyers are going to be a Stanley Cup contender.
They're not.
High hopes.
They're gonna go a deep run in the playoffs this year, but I think
a deep run. Deep run.
How far? And
conference finals.
Oh man.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go.
I got high hopes this year, dude. I got high hopes.
What do you sound like, Harry Callis now?
Nick, see, now you understand. This is why I cannot do these Flyers fans. See, this is why, if I have to cheer for a team, I'm a Predators fan. Why? Because I've been to Nashville, I've been to their arena, and I will not run into a Predators fan to argue with in the Philadelphia area. So I'm safe.
They're a bunch of dopes when it comes to hockey, though.
I'm safe being a Predators fan. Yeah, I could not survive in this area trying to cheer for the Devils or the Rangers. No, I'm not going to be fraudulent to do that. I hate them, too. My Philadelphia blood will not allow me to cheer for a team like the Devils or the Rangers or any New York-based team. But I cannot and will not cheer for a team that fan base is pretty much disrespectful.
Let's be honest. All you like what's her name? Dates.
Carrie Underwood.
Mike Fisher's
Carrie Underwood.
I mean,
Carrie
listen,
Underwood.
It doesn't hurt. I do like their cell block, fan section. That might be the best fan section of all of hockey. Cell block C. I mean, that's their fan section.
Is that like the blue guys that get on top of the glass?
Yeah, they're crazy. They go off. Yeah, they're nuts. Well, see, that's the thing with Nashville. See, this is why, come playoff hockey time in Nashville, it's nuts. They all go to the bars because it's It was ranked as the nicest city in America.
Yeah.
You know, it's Country Music USA. So you go to all these bars, you just get hammered leading up to the hockey game. Then you show up at the hockey game, you're already a drunk, crazy asshole to begin with. So all of a sudden you can walk into the arena and it's easy pickings. You got 20,000 screaming.
Now is the Predators or
maniacs.
Predator? I wouldn't know this, but is the Predators arena close to where the Tennessee Titans play? Are they like near each other?
They're not far from each other, but put it this way. The Predators arena, the reason it's so popping, like when you watch a Predators game in the playoffs, you're like, wow, that place looks loud. The reason it's so popping is because you could literally, like when I was there a couple Novembers ago. You can go to the bar, you know, one of the bars on one of the streets there, and they got bars for every walk of life. Blues bars, rock bars, rap bars, country bars, whatever your fancy is, they've got it. Yeah. Literally, you walk down the street 2 minutes and there's the arena. Like you can see the arena from the bars. Like it's kind of like Wrigleyville with the Cubs, like all the bars
like
outside
Fenway,
of Wrigleyville that are right outside Wrigley.
Yeah, but
like
but you
with Fenway, the bars all right outside.
One thing about Wrigley, and I just went there. I went to see a Cubs game when I was out in Chicago. Wrigley Field is completely on the opposite side of like it's like a mile down the road from Soldier Field. Mm-hmm. So they're not right next to each other.
Yeah, well, Soldier Field's never really been in a good area though. Anyway,
right?
It's always been
Now the White Sox play on
the
other
play
side.
In the ghetto.
Well, they play on the
south side.
The United Center is on the other side.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Everything's all spaced out.
Well, yeah, and that's always been like I said, that's why I talked about, one of my buddies that I know that's from Chicago, and he explained, he said, the Cubs, he's like, the Cubs, White Sox, when you get to Chicago, if you're from the South Side, there's a lot of White Sox fans because it's kind of like a loyalty. Southsiders, the White Sox play on the South Side loyalty. Cubs play on the North Side. If you're from the North Side of Chicago, North Side loyalty. But even on the South Side of Chicago, you'll find a lot more Cubs fans than you will White Sox fans. Right. There's a reason there's 25,000 fans at a White Sox game as opposed to 40,000 at a Cubs game. But the other side of that is, like, the South Side of Chicago is not, it's the bad side. Between the North Side and the South Side's where you're finding all the really bad areas. The North Side, you're going to find, you're going to find a lot of the affluent suburban areas of Chicago with the big houses. Like Kerry Wood lives on the North Side of Chicago in like a $2 million mansion because he now works in the Cubs front office. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the better place to be if you want to go to Chicago and have fun and enjoy yourself.
Absolutely.
The North Side's the place to be.
I was in the projects, bro.
Yeah, that's
where I was staying at.
You were scared outside Soldier Field?
Gang wars. No, Soldier Field was on the other side. It was down. Was freaking 15 minutes away from where I was at. I was on where the White Sox.
Yeah, well, that's a problem.
Where the United Center,
yeah,
I was in the projects. Yeah, there was a heroin needle right on the ground. Right? Seriously.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, right outside.
I mean, you probably find the same thing in Philly or South Jersey.
Well, I was there.
Honest.
They called it the medical district. So I understand.
You go like 10 minutes south to Gloucester, you'll find just as many heroin needles. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Go to the train station in Gloucester that leads over to Philly. You'll find just as many heroin. You'll find heroin addicts, heroin needles, homeless bums. Yeah, it's Gloucester. It's I get you.
Gloucester County, right?
You got Gloucester County, and then you have Gloucester Township and Gloucester City.
What's the difference?
There's two different ones. Gloucester Township, then you got Gloucester City as well, but it's all called Gloucester County.
Okay, well, what's like?
All of Gloucester's bad.
It's all bad.
Gloucester's a big heroin area. Everybody comes in from Camden, they get their heroin. They come take the train down there to get the heroin. It's bad.
Now that's near like Vineland, right?
Yeah, it's near all that.
Vineland, New Jersey's bad.
It's near Belmar.
No, but I'm saying Vineland.
I don't necessarily know. I know it's like right next to Belmar and a place like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's bad.
Gotcha.
Final post. We'll move on to this one. I actually like this one. I commented on this one. Lane Johnson, you dumbass.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Lane brain.
This is what I had to say about that.
What an idiot.
Anybody who cost themselves $25 million because of failing a drug test can officially be classified as a dumbass.
Yes.
Like, all you had to do to not cost yourself $25 million was not fail a drug test.
Yes.
If you didn't fail a drug test, you were guaranteed to get that $25 million.
Yes.
That's the definition of an idiot.
Can I ask you a question? Would you stop smoking the reefer if you were going to get $25 million?
Oh, hell yeah. For long enough to get that guaranteed $25 million. I might start up again after I got the $25 million, but I'll find a way to stop doing it. I don't care what it is. I could be the most hardcore, crackhead there is out there. I'll find a way to stop being a crackhead, to get me my $25 million. You know what I mean?
If they told you, Zach,
I might retire as soon as I make that $25 million.
If they told you, Zach, you could not smoke marijuana. You were getting random drug tests.
Well, that's allegedly.
Listen,
allegedly, I allegedly do
right,
that.
for 25 years. So if they say you get $1 million a year, but you can't do it, so we'll give you $1 million a year for 25 years, but you couldn't do it. Would you do it?
I'd probably find a way. I just replace it with beer. I realized I just turned into an alcoholic.
But they weren't saying beer; they're saying marijuana.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah,
so you're getting $1 million a year for 25 years. Would you do it?
Oh hell yeah!
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that. I'd replace one vice with another. I'd start smoking cigarettes. I'd start drinking beer. If my liver failed, I'd buy a new one.
Okay.
You know, so,
all right.
Be like, here's $10 million. Find me a new liver. Yeah, well, we've got a long list of donors in front of you. Well, here's $10 million. Put me to the top of the list. I'd find a way.
I want to be number one.
Yeah, I want to be. Here's $10 million. I want to be number one. This has been The Rundown, A2DRadio.com. Fun show, full 2 hours today. Hope everybody enjoyed it. According to Sean, people stop listening when I do my thing. So hopefully that wasn't the case today.
The DeSean Jackson.
Well, yeah, like I said,
we'll move on from that.
We're in the minority because everybody all the feedback I got had that being an argument that I won. Chalk went up in the favor of Zach Barr. The Rundown on A2DRadio.com, brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City. Easy to get to, minutes off of exit 37 of the Parkway. Ultimate driving experience is closer than you think. 6037 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, 609-568-9200. Thanks for listening. Take care, everybody.